Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Deku had rock quirk part 1. If you guys enjoy this what if and want to see part 2, comment down below and let me know before I start. Please do support for more awesome content and leave a like. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel and also share this video with your friends and check out the description in my playlist. The author of the story VoidRebirth from fanfiction.net. So let's start the video. All men are not created equal. This was the sad truth that Izuku Midoriya faced through his early years of life. For years, the hero hopeful faced adversity and discrimination. All for a single aspect about himself that he could not change. An extra joint in his pinky toe. In the modern-day world of superheroes, heroics ever grows into society. It means new and more powerful quirks are needed. Many adults follow this ideology, including a certain school of Aldera Junior High. A fine example within said school was none other than their shining star Katsuki Bakugo. A strong individual with a powerful explosion quirk, who dreams of becoming the next #1, who happens to currently be Izuku's main bully. For you see, with the ideology of quirks reigning supreme, a hierarchy is formed. And within that hierarchy, individuals like Izuku find themselves at the bottom. No, even that is giving it too much credit. For that is too high of an honor for the quirkless, it seems. Yes, Izuku Midoriya, a boy with a heart of gold, is quirkless. And thus, seen as unnecessary in the eyes of the people. I'm afraid there's no hope for him. I'm sorry. Worthless Deku, to the doctor, he was a kid doomed to failure. To his mother, he was a child whose dream was stolen. And to his classmates and teachers, he was a waste of space and utterly useless. And to Katsuki Bakugo, you want to be a hero so bad. I've got a time-saving idea for you. If you think you'll have a quirk in your next life, go take a swan dive off the roof. He was a roadblock he needed to blast down. However, none of that was what broke him. Walking under the roadway pass, Izuku stayed determined as he continued forward. While Katsuki's words left a scar, Izuku refused to give up on his dream. No matter the words thrown at him, no matter the ridicule and beatings, he would face it all with a smile. To become a hero, just like All Might. And as he walked through that underpass, he stepped out to the other side, the sun shining brightly as he stayed determined of his dreams. And with that, he would head off for home, to face what truly broke him. As Izuku returned home, he noticed that he returned before his mother, 𝐀𝐦 Midoriya. Not a common occurrence nor a rare one, but rather an interesting change as it left Izuku in charge of mail. And what awaited him was something strange. Opening the mailbox, Izuku found a good handful of letters waiting for them. A good few were simple one for his mother, those being bills as well as the monthly check from Izuku's father Hisashi. Truthfully, Izuku did not feel a strong connection with his father, but held no ill will either. When he was younger, he didn't understand it, but truthfully his mother and father were drifting apart when 𝐀𝐦 found out she was pregnant. The two stayed together for as long as they could for Izuku's sake, but it sadly strained their fraying marriage even more. So, with a heavy heart, Hisashi Akutani and 𝐀𝐦 Midoriya filed for divorce, as Hisashi got offered a promotion overseas. 𝐀𝐦 would take care of Izuku and raise him, but Hisashi still sent over money to support however he could. While their marriage failed, the two stayed in contact and were slowly able to regain their friendship. And with 𝐀𝐦's support, Hisashi was able to marry someone new. So, while the emotional bond is not there with his father, Izuku still held some respect for the man, as the hero hopeful walked back into his and his mother's apartment. However, he found himself stopping as he noticed the remaining amount of mail, all addressed to him, and the most prominent of them all, Yua. Now, despite being a hopeful individual, Izuku's heart fell as he saw that letter. He may be optimistic, but he is very realistic. The world isn't nice. The world is not fair. And if his gut feeling was correct, then it may have gotten much worse. Placing the mail for his mother on the kitchen counter, he would move to the dining room table and place the letters down. Now with only the Yua letter in his hand, the 14-year-old slowly opened the letter. It only took a few moments before the tears started to fall onto the paper. Dear Izuku Midoriya, we thank you for your interest in studying heroics at our academy. We pride ourselves in our acceptance to all individuals, no matter their quirk. However, what we cannot ignore is one's school records. And from what has been shown in your records, you have far too many black marks from disturbing class, fighting with others, middling grades, and overall showing non-heroic behavior. As such, we must inform you that you shall be rejecting your application for our heroics course. If you wish to still apply for our general education course, you may. From Principal Nezu, crumpling the tear-stained paper in his hand. Izuku quickly opened up the other letters to his absolute horror. There were similar letters from Shiksu and even Isamu, all stating the same repeating factors. Disturbing class. Fighting others. Poor grades. Not a hero. It was in that moment that Izuku Midoriya realized who his greatest threat to his future was. It was never his classmates who bullied him and beat him down every chance they could. It was never Kaken, who suicide baited him and exploded the worthless Deku for getting in his way. No, it was Aldera. Those given power over his life. They abused that power and destroyed any chance. They stomped him down for trying to rise above. They broke every little bit of hope left in the boy as Izuku broke down into tears. He never noticed when his mother returned home, nor the horrified and broken look as she hugged her baby boy. All the while, Enko's words echoed in Izuku's head. I'm so sorry, that wasn't what he needed to hear. But then again, at this rate, he'll never hear those words. The days that followed were filled with dread and sadness. Due to the effect the letters had on him, his mother went ahead and called him sick for a few days. But it did nothing to help. Izuku knew what would happen. Aldera would also get confirmation that the quirkless boy was rejected from all the heroics exams. And being the people they are, that would be spread all over the school in a matter of minutes. How stupid Deku tried to be something he couldn't be, and got absolutely humiliated for it. Looking around his room, the smiling faces of All Might created a growing guilt in his chest. How he failed his favorite hero. So much so that after a while, Izuku would get up and grab his backpack before walking out of his room, and towards the front door. Izuku, his mother, reading on the couch, turned to see her son heading over to leave as she stood up worriedly. Are you okay, sweetie? Izuku looked at his mother as he nodded his head with a small weak smile. Yeah, Mom, just need fresh air. Enko, still worried, gave a hesitant nod which lightened the weight on Izuku's shoulders a little bit. Ever since the letters came in, her overbearing nature seemed to double. It wasn't that she wanted to be like that, but rather couldn't figure out how not to. All right, sweetie. Just make sure to keep your phone on you. And to call me if you need anything, okay? The mother held her hands together as she tried to calm her nerves. It wasn't that she didn't trust her son, but rather, she knew her son all too well. Either way, with the okay given, Izuku nodded and turned to leave before stopping for a moment. I love you, Mom. I love you too, Izuku. And with that final exchange, Izuku set out from their apartment and started to walk, mind lost in thought. He instinctively grabbed his backpack due to his hero fight watching hobby. However, that was the last thing he wanted to do. In fact, he had no idea what he wished to do. So, all Izuku could think of was wandering around and figuring something out. Little did he know of the individual who watched the boy leave. Watching with a curious and intrigued look, walking down the streets of Mustafa, Izuku felt lost. Not physically, but more mentally. In his hands was one of his hero analysis for the future notebooks as he rubbed his thumb around the burnt edges. Number 13. Truthfully, he should have had more than that, but most faced a similar result to this one. Thankfully, despite the water and explosion damage, the notebook was still functional. And yet, perhaps it was a sick and twisted sign. How no matter how much he's standing, he's still damaged. Just like this notebook, boom. Lifting his head, Izuku found himself near what appeared to be another villain attack. Did I unconsciously walk to one? Shaking his head, he slowly approached the crowd as he saw a familiar villain. The giant villain from a few days prior. The same one that Kamui Woods nearly captured before the new heroine Mount Lady jumped in to take the villain out. Fire seemed to be spread all around the alleyway he resided in as the giant punched Death Arms away. Damn. The punching hero groaned as he slowly picked himself up, bruised as he looked at the scene. I can't get in close enough to secure the hostage. Fuck. Nearby, the rescue hero Backdraft was shooting as much water as he could into the fires as he turned to Death Arms. I need to keep the fires from spreading, so someone else needs to go in. Landing next to Death Arms was none other than Kamui Woods, who had a frustrated look. These fires are also keeping me at bay. My quirk is vulnerable in this situation. Shoot. A narrow alley. Turning his head, Izuku saw a nervous and struggling Mount Lady as she looked down at the alley. I can't fit in without causing damage to all the spectators. Izuku watched in slight horror as he stared at the heroes. They weren't going to make it. This giant villain seemed to have a hostage, and what appeared to be some stolen gear, as the fires generating from the hostage seemed to be blocked by a strange gauntlet the villain was wearing. It seems to be a pair, as the other gauntlet smashed into the ground, causing cracks to appear nearby. Ha 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 ha, make me a villain over a stolen purse. Well now, who's on top, huh? The giant laughed as he raised his fist into the air. This is but the start of the new villain, Goliath. Ah ha 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 ha. With a loud roar of laughter, the villain named Goliath reared his fist back and swung at the approaching death arms, sending the punching hero flying into one of the nearby buildings. The crowd starting to step back more and more. That's right, feel the wrath of Goliath, Izuku's heart was screaming. To do something, to help out. But what could he do? He was just a worthless Deku. He was never going to be a hero. So maybe he should just walk away. Fuck you. Let me go, you bastard. The quirkless boy stopped as he stared up in shock. In the gauntlet of the villain where the fire emerged from, came from the explosive quirk of one Katsuki Bakugo. The same Katsuki who beat him day after day. The same boy, who currently held a plea for help in his eye. And in but a single moment, a familiar notebook fell to the ground, as a quirkless boy found himself running towards the villain, 𝐀𝐦 𝐍𝐻, who was picking himself up and moving back to the fight scene, saw the boy run in as his eyes widened. What are you doing, kid? Get back, Katsuki stared wide-eyed. What the fuck? What the hell are you doing, you stupid Deku? However, what 𝐍𝐻 and Katsuki didn't know was that Izuku was completely agreeing with them on that manner. What am I doing? The green-haired kid rushed in as the giant villain turned to him. Seriously? What am I doing? Okay, don't freak out, Izuku. You have one shot at this. Izuku watched closely as Goliath raised his fist into the air. And at that moment, Izuku noticed a strange glowing part of the gauntlet slightly jutted out. Could that be its power source? It would be really cliché, but I need to try. And as the giant swung downwards, Izuku's eyes widened. Hero analysis #7. Headshot ninja roll. Plant your feet, push with your hands and roll. And in an instant, the boy performed a haphazard roll. But it was enough to dodge out of the way as the giant's fist collided into the ground. Upon hitting the ground, the street below started to crack as a small shockwave shot out. But for Izuku, running of adrenaline, the quirkless boy quickly grabbed a nearby broken piece of concrete. It was one that he could reasonably lift with his weaker frame before he rushed forward and smashed the piece onto the section of the gauntlet, causing the light to go out and for the gauntlet to fall apart. Upon seeing this, Izuku couldn't help but smile despite all the nervousness barreling back into him. The giant looked shocked as he glared down at the trembling but smiling boy. What the fuck did you do, you little brat? Even without the one gauntlet, Goliath tried to swing his bare fist down, only for it to be stopped. I may not be able to fit into narrow alleyways. The giant turned to see Mount Lady holding the giant's fist as 𝐍𝐻 rushed forward, smashing his fist into the power source on the other gauntlet. Meanwhile, as 𝐀𝐦 𝐍𝐻 grabbed both Izuku and Katsuki, the giant heroine pulled her fist back with a glare. But I sure as hell can hit you when you walk out to the street. Sure enough, Mount Lady slammed her fist into the villain as Izuku realized. He unintentionally lured the giant villain closer to the street. As the heroes proceeded to take down the villain, a small part of Izuku smiled as he realized what had happened. He was a hero. Or rather, he was scolded by the heroes for being a reckless idiot. Which was fair. Truthfully, it was a surprising experience. For one, Katsuki was silent the entire time before he was loaded into an ambulance. He did take damage as the villain had grabbed and squeezed him with the gauntlets, leading to broken bones. After that, the heroes started by scolding him for putting himself in danger, which increased when they learned of his quirkless status. However, it was then what 𝐍𝐻 said next that shocked him. Listen, kid. You did good out there. But wait until you're licensed before pulling that kind of shit again, alright? Needless to say, Izuku nodded to that before heading off. Not wanting to rush home to a mother who will most likely see a news report once he enters, Izuku wandered off once more. And soon enough, he found himself standing in front of Takoba Municipal Beach Park. Staring at the trash mountain, Izuku couldn't help but laugh to himself. The one who saved the day was none other than him, Deku. He was so lost in his thoughts, he didn't notice the person walking up behind until he heard a voice. Well, that certainly was a spectacle. Turning his head, Izuku saw a tall woman with a curvy appearance. She was wearing simple combat gear, had indigo hair with pink streaks tied into a ponytail, and was holding what appeared to be a letter in her hand. Izuku's eyes widened as his mouth opened in shock. "Oh my god, you're agent. It's an honor tomadio megadonid notebook." The woman raised a brow. "What the? Slow down with the motor mouth, kid, and speak clearly." Izuku nodded as he coughed and spoke. "Why, you're Lady Nagant, the sniper heroine. You were said to never miss a single shot, and one of the most effective Twilight heroes in villain takedown before your retirement from the hero industry." "Well now," the woman nodded. "You know your stuff." "That's right. Rather intelligent, aren't you?" She looked down at the letter in her hand as she hummed. "Very different from what your school records talked about." This caused ice to shoot down Izuku's veins as his eyes widened. What? Lady Nagant nodded as she held up the letter. "Well, kiddo. Name's 𝐀𝐦 𝐍𝐨𝐭, the newest teacher at 𝐬𝐡𝐢 Academy High School, and I was supposed to deliver your rejection letter today." Hearing those words, Izuku lowered his head. "All right. I forgot I didn't get a L letter from 𝐬𝐡𝐢 yet." As he tried to hide the approaching tears in his eyes, 𝐀𝐦 continued. "But I'm gonna hold on to this a little while longer." Before lifting his head in confusion. What? 𝐀𝐦 smirked as she pocketed the letter away. "From what I saw today, I saw a kid who stepped in to help another. A kid who was able to analyze the situation and play things smart. Who acted like a hero." She chuckled as she shook her head. "If your school records say what they say, then either you're a good actor or 𝐴LDRA is blind as hell." Izuku stared at the former heroine with shock. "So, does this mean I'm not barred from the exam?" Not quite." Izuku froze in shock as 𝐀𝐦 stepped closer and poked his arm. "If I allowed you to try the test now, with these pitiful muscles, then I might as well go to jail for murder." She shook her head. "Right now, you can't become a hero." In that moment, Izuku was uncertain. He had heard the words many times before, and yet, something was telling him that this time, it was different. Do you think?" The boy stumbled as he gathered his courage. "Do you think a quirkless person can become a hero?" 𝐀𝐦 was silent as she stared at the boy for a moment before smirking. "Depends on if they're willing to put in the hard work. If they are, then yeah, they can be a hero. However," she then stops and looks Izuku straight in the eye. "Answer me this. Would you be that person? The one to become a quirkless hero? Would you be willing to put in the effort needed?" And without a moment of hesitation, Izuku answered. "More than anything." "Then kid, you can become a hero." It took a few minutes for Izuku to calm down from all the tears. 𝐀𝐦 felt a little awkward with it, but considering the reaction, this was most likely the first time anyone has said those words to him. Still, "Are you sure you don't have a quirk?" She points to the river of tears. "Because that seems unnatural." Izuku shook his head as he wiped his eyes. "And nope, my mother does this too." 𝐀𝐦 looked at Izuku confused as she sighed. "All right then. Just a strange mutation, I guess. And maybe." Fully wiping his eyes, now a little red, Izuku looked at 𝐀𝐦 confused. "So, Lady Nagant, what happens now?" "Well, for now, I refuse to allow you to take the exam." She quickly held up a hand as she noticed the betrayed look appearing. "I meant it when I said you had pitiful muscles. Until you bulk up, I'm holding on to the rejection letter." Isn't this blackmail?" 𝐀𝐦 gave a deadpan expression. "Look kid, I'm being honest. I can't actually hold on to this. I either reverse it or let it go through now. And I'm gonna reverse it." She then gained a serious look. "But are you going to just walk in with no preparation? No training?" Izuku went to open his mouth, but stopped himself. Thinking about it, she was right. Did Izuku prepare for being a hero? Mentally, yes. He studied hard and worked on his analysis skills. But physically, he was a beanpole, frail and easy to take down. "You're right." Izuku clenched his fist. "I've been beaten down again and again, letting it happen. Letting myself stay like this. Well, no more." His eyes regained the burning fire of heroism. "I refuse to let myself be held back anymore. I'll go even further beyond." Plus ultra indeed. 𝐀𝐦 then crossed her arms. "And I'm guessing you aren't really allowed in gyms, right?" "Yeah, I'm classified as a risk so they won't take me." Izuku was used to it. Most places overcharged anyways. 𝐀𝐦 just nodded and pointed behind her. Well then. We have the perfect place for you to start training. Izuku raised a brow as he looked behind the former heroine, only to see the beach. He didn't fully understand as he slowly started to think for a moment. But once it hit, his eyes widened. Wait, are you talking about cleaning up the beach? I can assure you, she is 100% serious. Gah! Izuku jumped away as he turned to see who was talking. Standing next to him was a girl around his who had an athletic build to her, short mint green hair, and sharp mint green eyes. She was a tinge taller than Izuku as she had on a simple training outfit. However, Izuku was just very confused. WW 𝐀𝐦 raised a brow. Oh, what are you doing here, Yumiko? Izuku looked back and forth between the two as he looked at 𝐀𝐦. Lady Nagant, why you know each other? Yep. This right here is Yumiko Uwata. The mint hair girl bowed as she was introduced by the former heroine. She's my apprentice. Yumiko nodded. I am training to join Quetzalbutsu Academy Heroics. 𝐀𝐦 chuckled a bit and patted the girl on her shoulder. She's a little blunt and to the point, but very loyal and courageous. Izuku just stared at the two as Yumiko stepped closer to him, entering his personal space. The dark verdantette blushed as the girl held out a book. H Hero Analysis 13. I must have forgotten it. Thank you, Uwata-san. It is no pleasure at all. And please, if it is all right, refer to me by my first name or my future hero name. The girl gained a serious expression. The archer heroine, Burroughs. Oh okay, why Yumiko-san? A tiny smile appeared on the girl's face as Izuku continued. Is so. What did you mean by 100% serious? Burroughs gained a slight tired expression in her eyes. 𝐀𝐦-sensei is ruthless. If she sets her mind, she will not stop. And she has set her mind on your training method. How rude. Such words from my own apprentice. The former heroine acted like she was shot through the heart, before returning to normal. But she is right. Moving back and pointing towards the beach, 𝐀𝐦 smiled. Back in the day, the term hero didn't mean someone with a fancy sh-mancy ID. It meant an individual who was willing to help however they can. And community service is the perfect place to start young hero. Facing Izuku with a grin, 𝐀𝐦 crossed her arms and continued. The entrance exam is in 10 months. That's how long you have to clean this beach, understood? Of course, since I'm the one pushing this challenge onto you, I'll help you out. She then pointed to Yumiko with her thumb. Plus, Yumiko here would get a new training partner. Izuku stared for a moment, before smiling wide with a bright fire in his eyes. Then let's get started right now, Lady Nagant-sensei. This caused 𝐀𝐦 to laugh as she shook her head. Love the enthusiasm, kiddo. But we need to get proper gear for you to clean this up. As well as setting up a workout plan. And deal with the currently ringing phone. Yumiko said that as she pointed to Izuku's buzzing phone. A buzz that caused all the memories of the incident before to hit him like a fire truck. That was definitely his mother. Oh okay, fair enough. If I'm not grounded for eternity. 𝐀𝐦 just laughed as Yumiko gained a tiny, amused smile. The mentor and apprentice gave the quirkless boy their numbers as 𝐀𝐦 looked him dead in the eye. Tomorrow is a Saturday. Meaning you're free. So, meet here at 5 a.m. in the morning. Understood? Why yes, sensei. And with that, the boy bowed before he turned and rushed off to hurry home. Hopefully to calm down his anxiety-filled worried mother. It wasn't until halfway on the way home, Izuku realized something. Wait a minute. I forgot to ask for Lady Nagant-sensei's autograph. Oh my god. I talked to a girl my age. I have the phone number of a girl my age. And that was the very beginning. The very beginning of Izuku's path to becoming the world's greatest hero. But most importantly, the beginning of the newest batch of heroes. If All Might's generation could be classified as the golden generation of heroes, then these ones are like diamonds in the rough. The jewel generation of heroes was approaching. Izuku Midoriya's Ketsubutsu analysis for the future book #1. Entry 1. 𝐀𝐦 Tsutsumi Lady Nagant, former pro hero. Left the hero industry a few years back. Reason was never revealed to the public. Is there a reason for it? Quirk. Rifle. Allows Lady Nagant to shift her arm into a sniper rifle. Using her hair as bullets, she is an incredible marksman, which, from records, says she's never missed a shot. Is going to be the homeroom teacher for Quetzalbutsu Academy Heroics first years this year. Gave me a workout plan for dealing with 𝗀𝐻𝐻𝐵 Beach. Holds my rejection letter. She's going to reverse, but wants me to finish the challenge first or else she'll be disappointed I can't fail her. Not when she believes in me. Has an apprentice, Yumiko Ueda. Do they have similar quirks? Why an apprentice? Overall review. Lady Nagant appears to believe that I can clean this beach. If I can, then I have a shot at the exam. I am hesitant to fully trust her, but I believe this might be the chance I needed, and I will become a hero. As Izuku opened the front door, his mother rushed over to both scold and confirm if Izuku was okay. However, what awaited her was something that made her heart worry, but also scream in joy. For walking into the house, she could see the fire of a dream back into Izuku's eyes. Mom, 𝐀𝐻𝐦 stopped as she looked at her son, standing determined. I found someone. Someone who wants to help me become a hero. And not only that, I have a chance. Ketsubutsu never rejected me. Well, they were going to, but then someone changed it. Someone decided to take me under their wing, because they saw I could become a hero. 𝐀𝐻𝐦's eyes widened as her son continued. I know it's a dangerous dream. I know that being quirkless makes people see it as impossible. But, he looked up at his mother, eyes burning bright. I will be a hero. I'll become a hero for those who are told they can't do it. I want to become a symbol. Oh Izuku, 𝐀𝐻𝐦 walked up to her son. I love you. And if this is what you want, sweetie, I will support you however I can. She had some tears start to pour down. You always were a hero, and I'm so proud of you. The quirkless boy had a stream of tears starting to form as well as he hugged his mother. Thank you. I love you so much. The mother and son let out their happy tears as they slowly calmed down. Once the tears stopped, 𝐀𝐻𝐦 stepped back from the hug and looked at Izuku. There's just one thing I need to request first. Izuku smiled. Of course, Mom, what is it? I want to meet this new sensei of yours. She gave a serious expression. I want to know who it is before I trust them with my baby and his hopes and dreams. Izuku nodded as he suddenly stopped. Oh okay, but first, I think the adrenaline has worn off. 𝐀𝐻𝐦 was confused until Izuku faceplanted forward onto the floor. Izuku? Needless to say, another stream of tears escaped the worried mother. After the waterworks finished up and the day passed, Izuku would send a call to Lady Nagant about his mother's request to meet her the next morning. Sure enough, later in the day, the former heroine was standing at the front door with her apprentice next to her. Hey kid, how are things? Izuku chuckled sheepishly. Hello Nagant-sensei, I'm alright. However, 𝐀𝐻𝐦 walked into the room with a small frown. I think collapsing out of nowhere onto the floor is not alright, dear. Yumiko looked at 𝐀𝐻𝐦 for a moment before turning to Izuku. Izuku-kun, floors are not suitable for resting. Choose a bed or seat like a couch next time. The green-haired boy just groaned as his mother and possible sensei laughed at the seriousness of Yumiko's words. Moving over to the couch, the mother of the house offered tea to everyone as they all got settled in. Once they were, 𝐀𝐻𝐦 looked at Lady Nagant. So, it's obvious that you're a hero or former hero, if the name my son said is any indication. Smart. Like mother like son. The indigo-haired woman nodded. My name is 𝐀𝐦 𝐍𝐶𝐻𝐭, also known as Lady Nagant. I'm a former hero. 𝐀𝐻𝐦 shook her head. No. My ex-husband is a quirk analyst. Izuku got those smarts from his father. I'm just a simple nurse. She gave a closed-eye smile as what appeared to be a heavy aura appeared. A simple nurse with a quirk that lets her move anything classified as a small object. Izuku raised a brow at his mother's word. What did her quirk have to do with anything? However, seeing the paling face of 𝐀𝐦 as she sat up straight made him double-guess himself. I see. Well, then it's a good thing we're all here for good things, right? 𝐻𝐻𝐻. 𝐀𝐻𝐦 nodded as she looked at Lady Nagant. So, why are you doing this? Why go through all this for a random boy you plan to reject? Honestly, I understand the worry. It's why I was holding on to the letter in the first place. She sighed. I understand what it's like to not be given a chance. To be forced down a road you don't want to take. I'm the newest teacher for Ketsubutsu. And already I'm doing things differently. I wanted to meet your son before I rejected anything. And what did I find? She gained a sad frown. A boy who is blocked from any chance of success. And I want to offer a door. A chance. If he's willing to work for it. That is, if you are alright with this offer. Izuku sat there in nervousness as he looked at his quiet mother. Truthfully, a small part of him 𝐀𝐦 was silent for a moment before she sighed. Very well, I'll allow it. Izuku looked at his mother with awe and shock as his mother gave a sad smile and continued. I haven't been the best mother for my son. And now, I regret it. I wanted my son to be safe that I didn't notice that he wasn't happy. I still want my son to be safe. But I want more than anything for my son to be happy. And if this is how he will achieve his happiness, then I'll allow it. As long as you put his safety first. Of course. Lady Nagant gained a serious look. I promise you that I will do everything in my power to help him achieve his goal. Of course, what I have for him will be harder than any other training plan. Because he has to catch up, 𝐀𝐦 gained a saddened look. Because he was not allowed to grow before, and now needs it in spades. The green-haired mother clenched her fist in anger as she remembered the previous teachers. 𝐀𝐦 nodded her head. Exactly. The training I plan for the kiddo will be a challenge to not only catch him up to those his age, but surpass his limits. After all, I have 5 parts to it I want him to achieve. She holds up a hand to stop Izuku from speaking up. He stays silent as 𝐀𝐦 continued. Yes, I know I said only the one part. But I looked over all the key points you would need to tackle to prepare for the heroics exam. The first part is what we already talked about. Cleaning Takoba Beach within these 10 months. Breathing in for a moment, 𝐀𝐦 puts her hands together and points them at Izuku with a deadpan expression. I'll be honest, kid, I don't think you're going to be able to do it. It's 10 months and a metric fuckton of garbage. I'll provide protective gear and all that. But you won't be allowed to get help from me, your mother, or any other adult. This caused Izuku to stop and look at 𝐀𝐦 for a moment. Part of him wanted to scream at the impossible challenge. But perhaps that was it. A challenge that was impossible when alone. And if he listened to her words carefully. So, no adult assistance? 𝐀𝐦 nodded once more before a tiny smile appeared on Izuku's face. Then, he turned to Yumiko. See, could you assist me with this task, Yumiko-san? The archer girl blinked at those words as 𝐀𝐦 smirked. You really are a smart one. You caught my play on words. The former hero leaned back and nodded. This brings forth the second part of this challenge. Networking. She then turned to the mother. I'll be honest. From what I've seen, I can tell your son is an intelligent individual. But the school records he has don't reflect that. 𝐀𝐦 gained a serious expression as one could see flames of anger in her eyes. Oh, I've seen the letters. And thankfully, I was able to fix it while my son slept peacefully. Wait, what? Izuku turned to his mother with a look of uncertainty. What does that mean, Mom? Oh, Izuku, sweetie. His mother gave a calming smile as she grasped her son's hand into hers. If you're okay with it, we can move you to online schooling. You don't have to go back to Aldera anymore. The quirkless boy was floored at that, as if in disbelief. Oh, really? But I was fine, Izuku. 𝐀𝐦 gained a stern expression. Do you remember what my job is? You're a nurse. But what does that, Izuku? I can tell when our supplies are lowered. I can see the wincing. 𝐀𝐦 looked so upset. I know you, sweetie. You hid it because of how you are. You're a lovely, wonderful young man. But you don't need to be so self-sacrificing all the time. You knew? Izuku looked shocked and ashamed. I didn't want you to worry. You already have enough on your plate. 𝐀𝐦 shook her head. Izuku, I will admit it. Not bringing it up earlier was possibly the biggest mistake I've made. As a mother, I've made many mistakes. Well, no more. I'm fixing those mistakes and focusing on your happiness. All right, sweetie. Getting a nod in response, the mother turned back to Lady Nagant. Sorry about that. Continue. 𝐀𝐦 blinked before she shrugged. Well, that saves me a bunch of time. I was going to suggest online schooling as well. Fixing her position, she continued. As I was saying, networking. Heroes can't survive on their own. We network and support one another despite some heroes treating this job like a cutthroat business. Your goal is to network and make 10 friends. Izuku paled at that. An introvert's nightmare, socializing. However, Yumiko just tilted her head a bit. 9 friends, I count. This brought a blush to Izuku's face as 𝐀𝐦 laughed at her apprentice. I guess so. The third part of this challenge is probably the simplest part. You need to practice close quarters combat. So, the point of this part is simple. You need to best 6 individuals in close quarters. 5 being connections that you made, and the last one being Yumiko here. The former hero said this while pointing her thumb to the archer girl. Izuku did not like his odds when he saw the gleam in Yumiko's eye, nor her cracking her fist, ready for a fight. The fourth part is, in my opinion, the most important part. Staring Izuku dead in the eye, Lady Nagant spoke. You need to create a fighting style. I will offer different combat styles and weaponry. I'll even help offer practice. But it's up to you to find a style that fits you. This made Izuku confused. Wouldn't it be best to use a style you can teach best? But kinda shook her head. You would think that. But no. She pointed to herself and Yumiko. We have quirks suited for long-range combat, and as such, succeed in it more. The former heroine then pointed at Izuku. But you don't have that hard lock, because you're lucky that you're quirkless. This caused the boy to look absolutely shocked. I'm lucky to be quirkless. Part of him was offended at the words as flashes of bad memories enter his mind. Lady Nagant held up her hand in a one-moment manner. Sorry. Worded that poorly. What I meant was that people like Yumiko and myself, we're templates. We have a set path on how to fight at our best. The former heroine then grinned. But you don't have that. You're a blank canvas. Meaning that it's up to you to find your fighting style. Izuku slowly nodded as the words entered his mind. It made sense. If you had a leg-related quirk, then a kick-based fighting style seems best. But himself? He had nothing to lean back on. He had to find what works for him. I see, Izuku then started to ponder and mutter. So that means I'm not going to specifically be a gunslinger nor a brawler. Swordsman? No. That takes years of training and needing a blade. But then again, it's going to be some kind of weapon. I need the firepower to take down villains if I want to. The boy was interrupted as Lady Nagant had stood up and flicked him on the forehead to break his mutter spree. Brainstorm later? All right. Getting a nod. The former heroine sat back down. So, the last part of the challenge is the literal last part. Once you've completed the other parts, you're going to spar with me. No holds bar. I'll explain more as you complete the different tasks, but just know, I'm not going to go easy on you. Taking in all the parts of the challenge laid out to him, Izuku grew a little nervous. That's a lot to do. It is. Truthfully, I could have made it more challenging. Could have made it impossible. But instead, it's simply extremely difficult if you truly tackle it alone. Leaning back and gaining a small smile, the indigo and pink-haired woman looked at Izuku. But then again, isn't that heroics? Extremely difficult alone, almost impossible at times. The question is, are you up for it? Izuku, upon hearing those words, gave a determined expression. I plan to go above and beyond, to become a new symbol. So, bring it on. Over the next couple weeks, things changed significantly in Izuku's life. For one, Izuku was able to thrive in his online course, now that he didn't have quirkish teachers holding him back, moving through the coursework at a fast pace. The teachers of Aldera did try to stop him, but then in came his mother. Izuku learned that day that a quiet anger was much more terrifying than a raging anger like Katsuki. Terrifying fun fact. Having a mother who's a nurse, and has a quirk that is the attraction of small objects, means that she knows a bunch of parts of the human body that classifies as small objects. He now understood why Lady Nagant was nervous by his mother's threat. It was both horrifying and enlightening to see his mother go on a mumble spree about what she was going to do to his old teachers. Trying to block that from his mind to keep the image of his innocent mother. He honestly found the change to schedule very helpful. Not only did the online schooling give him more time for training, but also allowed him to continue his analysis books more. Networking was still a work in progress. However, despite all that, what was the most thing he gained from all this? A friend. Yumiko was a strange one. Where our Lady Nagant was snarkier and more relied on logical ruses, which apparently, she got the idea from a teacher friend of hers. Yumiko was blunt and to the point. But it wasn't bad per se. Honestly, he enjoyed the company. When it came to skills, however, dear Lord, was he far behind. Every spar ends with him getting judo flipped or knocked down with a powerful kick. Hell, she hadn't even used her quirk to beat him. Speaking of her quirk, Yumiko had to face a full quirk nerd ramble. But to be fair, Izuku was intrigued by her quirk longbow. It makes sense why she was Lady Nagant's apprentice, but also explains why Yumiko was so skilled in CQC. Her quirk, if running out of ammunition, leaves her defenseless. So being able to fight in close ranges helps her defeat possible villains who burst through the long range gap. He'd go on longer. But then he'd be there all week. So, at the moment, where does that bring us now? Simple. Izuku getting his ass handed to him by Yumiko again. Ugh, Izuku groaned as he laid on the sand. Lady Nagant headed off elsewhere for the moment, leaving the two varying Verdantats to spar. You really don't hold back. Of course. Holding back offers the opponent a chance to strike. Precision and quick defeat of the opponent is of high priority. The archer girl then started to gain a tiny bit of mischief in her eyes. You're stuttering less, Izuku-kun. Izuku nodded at that. I think it's expected, Yumiko-san. It started occurring the 6th time you beat me with ease. This brought a tiny chuckle from Yumiko as she moved over and sat down cross-legged next to him. 𝐀𝐦 would make a joke about how it should have been the 5th time. She would, wouldn't she? Izuku chuckled weakly as he rested his eyes. Lady Nagant, despite her snarky ways, was a very skilled trainer. With his courses going extremely well, she set up a schedule to help him with his training. He works on cleaning the beach on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. On Tuesdays, Izuku is expected to work on his classes, while on Sundays, he's expected to go out and network. Saturdays were his free days. Days where he can go out with friends or simply relax. He was told that on his free time, whether that's on Sundays or the other days, he could still do whatever he wanted as long as it wasn't anything straining. Lady Nagant drilled the lesson into Izuku's head when he thought about editing the schedule. He had to rest the next day due to being an idiot. Currently, it was Thursday, which is the day Izuku is supposed to work on CQC and his own personal fighting style, which currently has been Izuku losing to Yumiko and struggling to find a way to fight himself. Speaking of styles, ugh, I don't get it though. Yumiko tilted her head at Izuku's words as the quirkless boy continued. If I'm supposed to learn a combat style, then why is she not trying to teach me how to fire a gun? Yumiko blinked. Oh, that's simple. Because you're not like us. That caused Izuku to deflate. Yeah, I know I don't have a quirk. Thanks for reminding me. Quirk? Oh, my apologies, Izuku-kun. But that is not what I meant. She looked down at her hand as she transformed her fingers to create her longbow. I'm an archer. She's a sniper. We play roles you wouldn't be happy with. Izuku stopped and sat up as he turned to her confused. Wouldn't be happy with? Yes. We play long-range support roles. We work best when we're away from the close-quarters combat, away from the people. She then looked Izuku in the eye. Would you be happy in a role like that? Or would you rather be closer to the fight and save people firsthand? This caused the boy to stop for a moment. I want to save people with a smile. Yumiko nodded. And as range, you would not be the smile the people see. I see. Izuku stopped and fell back onto the sand as he looked up to the sky. That's something I never thought about. Yumiko moved over and laid down on the sand next to him, looking up to the sky as well. It's a tricky topic. When 𝐀𝐦 took me under her wing, I was tossed to the wolves like yourself. She gained a small smile. 𝐀𝐦, her teaching is strange. Whenever she teaches, she wants you to be certain about your choices. Despite my quirk, she would ask again and again if I truly wanted to be a ranged hero. And my answer never changed. Izuku tilted his head towards her. What was your answer, Yumiko-san? I don't care if I'm the one seen. I just want to do good. She tilted her head towards Izuku, the two looking at each other now. You said you wanted to be a symbol, right? Getting a nod in response, she continued. Well, then you need to figure out how to become that symbol. Build yourself up from there. And when you become a symbol, I'll assist you as a ranged hero. Wait, really? Izuku looked at her a little shocked. On the other hand, Yumiko looked confused. Of course. We're friends, right? She held out a fist as Izuku stared at it for a moment. And then, a smile appeared on his face as he returned the fist bump. Yeah, friends. Well. The two Verdantats then froze as they slowly turned their heads and looked up to see Lady Nagant standing there. Seems you two are slacking off. A small evil grin appeared on her face. Get up, both of you. You're both going to face me one-on-one. The two hopeful heroes paled. She would go easy on them, right? Short answer. No. She did not. It wasn't until the next day did things change once again. Friday was a cleanup day, one that he finished up. And after saying goodbye to Lady Nagant-sensei and Yumiko, his mother texted him and asked if he could go pick up groceries. Now, Izuku doesn't mind. Sure, it's a pain to walk across town to the one store that allows quirkless people to shop. He just finished up with cleanup and training, so he was tired. So tired that once he started walking home, he didn't realize the danger approaching until he heard a familiar yell. Deku. Sure enough, Izuku turned his head to see Katsuki Bakugo. And when looking back at this moment years later, Izuku will not deny that his tired mind had the right idea. Nope, 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 nope. Instinctively, Izuku booked it away as fast as he could, which only proceeded to enrage the blonde even more. Get back here, you fucking nerd. Izuku, however, chose life. So instead, he continued to dodge and weave as he started taking alleyways. While Kaken was faster, Izuku knew the back alleys a lot more. Easy paths to get to hero fights for analysis. There was enough distance that Izuku started to feel safe. I'm going to lose him. That was until Izuku took one turn and slipped, proceeding to fall forward. Or I'll just die. However, instead of landing on the ground, Izuku felt himself land on something soft, but dense as he started to float upwards into the air. He didn't understand what was happening as he looked to see that he was on a cloud. Confused, Izuku's cloudy ride continued up to the roof, the building he was next to before disappearing and dropping him to the roof floor. Down below, turning the corner, Katsuki looked all around as a vein mark popped up on his head, before yelling out loud. 𝐓𝐡𝐢𝐬 You won't escape me forever, you quirkless fuck. As Izuku watched the blonde stomp away, he quickly checked his groceries. Noticing they were all good, he breathed a sigh of relief. That was a close one. I'd say, talk about anger issues. Turning his head, Izuku got a better look at the person who just spoke. The individual was a taller boy with light blue, wavy hair that was swept back to flow upwards above his head, two shorter, ear-length tufts left hanging downwards to frame his face. He was wearing a casual outfit with a simple shirt, pair of jeans, blue sneakers, and what appeared to be an aviator jacket and pair of goggles on his head. The boy was smiling joyfully with blue eyes, and what appeared to be a small rectangular bandage over his nose. Extending a hand out to Izuku, the boy grinned even wider. Hiya, name's 𝗵𝗲. 𝗵𝗲 Shirakumo. Hesitant, Izuku took the hand and gave a shy smile. I Izuku Midoriya. Looking around a bit, Izuku turned back to the boy. Were you the one who saved me from Kaken? Yep. 𝗵𝗲 said that with a pop of the P at the end as he let go of Izuku's hand. He then jumped into the as a cloud formed beneath him. Sitting cross-legged on the cloud, 𝗵𝗲 gave a smile. My quirk is cloud. It lets me create clouds on command as well as control their density. Izuku was silent as he stared at the blue-haired boy, before stars appeared in his eyes as he pulled a notebook out of nowhere. Oh my god, that is such a cool quirk. You said you can control the density, but does that mean you can change all the aspects of it? Could you potentially create a cumulonimbus cloud or storm clouds? Does this mean you can fly on your clouds? How many clouds can you make? 𝗵𝗲 blinked for a moment before chuckling with a big teethy grin. Shishishi, calm down Midoriya-kun. I may be a quickster, but even I can't catch that. Oh, I'm sorry. Izuku looked sheepish. I'm a bit of a quirk fanatic. Sorry if I was annoying. Nah, it ain't like that, pal. 𝗵𝗲 leaned back into his cloud as he smiled. You can ask all the questions want, man. As long as I can ask a question. Of course, Izuku looked at him before stopping for a moment. As long as it's not about the notebooks. Nagan-sensei kept asking about them and truthfully, I don't know. It's not a quirk cause I'm quirkless, but Izuku froze as he covered his mouth in worry. 𝗵𝗲 stopped as he looked at Izuku confused. You alright, Midoriya-kun? Blinking for a moment, Izuku looked at 𝗵𝗲 in shock. You don't mind that I'm quirkless, Shirakumo-san? Nope. Why would a quirk change that? The cloud boy tilted his head confused. Wiping away some stray tears, Izuku shook his head. It's nothing. So, what was your question? 𝗵𝗲's eyes widened. Oh yeah, so, who was that angry Pomeranian, and why was he calling you Deku? Well, Izuku sheepishly rubbed the back of his head. He's Katsuki Bakugo. He's from my old school and is seen as the top dog. Meanwhile, because I'm quirkless, I was seen as the bottom of the barrel. Useless Deku. It just made sense and, well, he's not happy I'm trying to be a hero despite being a Deku. 𝗵𝗲 closed his eyes and rubbed his chin in pondering as he took in Izuku's words. Well, that's just dumb. Izuku turned him in shock at those words. Personally, It just sounds like he's got the personality of a burning pile of crap. Izuku stared at Aburo in awe. Is he teasing 𝐀𝐦? I can't believe someone is willing to do that. Ignoring the surprised inner dialogue of Izuku, the blue-haired boy floated there for a moment before his eyes widened, and he grinned. I got it? This made Izuku look at Aburo confused. Got what? Aburo turned to the quirkless boy with a big toothy grin. Here's what we'll do. We'll get rid of that crappy nickname with an even better one. A new one that you'll make into something new and better. Izuku stared at him confused as he continued. So, got any names you can think of? Izuku stopped and thought about it for a bit. Deku, worthless, waste of space. Well, we don't have time to unpack all of that. So, we'll have to work with changing that. The cloud boy tapped his temple as he started to think. Deku, Deku. The goggles-wearing boy grinned, and as he pounded his fist into his palm with an aha motion. It's perfect. Taking a bad nickname and changing it to a good one. Instead of useless, you'll be known for you can do it. This made Izuku stop and stare at Aburo for a moment as the word echoed in his head. Deku. You can do it, Deku. Like the Copernican revolution. This caused Aburo to stop and look at him confused. Copy what now? And nothing. Izuku shook his head as he looked unsure for a moment, before giving a small smile. Let's give it a shot. Izuku held out his hand to the boy with a small smile. Call me Deku. Aburo's smile grew wider as he took the Verdantet's hand as he laughed a little. Shishishi, pleasure to meet you, Deku. The two laughed for a moment before Izuku looked around. So, we should probably get down from here, right? Aburo paused at that. Suddenly the door burst open as a janitor glared at them. Hey, what are you kids doing here? Aburo nodded as he grinned nervously at Izuku. Yeah, time to go, Deku, creating a cloud. The two boys hopped on and descended down to the ground below as the yells of the custodian above could be heard. The two boys, despite the worry, couldn't help but laugh as a small weight on Izuku's heart disappeared. The next day, Izuku woke up to his phone going off, which confused him. Answering his phone, he heard an excited voice. Shishishi, finally, ya picked up Deku. Shirakumo-san. Izuku blinked for a moment. Seems what occurred yesterday wasn't a dream of any kind. How are you? Is there something you need? I'm good, but I wanted to ask something. Yesterday, you told me that your sensei gives you Saturdays off, right? Izuku raised a brow at Aburo's question. Hesitantly and confused, he replied. Yeah, today's my day off. Why? Aburo let off a whoop of joy. Awesome. Then let's hang out today. You can invite your training buddy friend as well. What do you say? Izuku was silent for a moment before smiling. Sure, do you mind coming up with the plan? Sure thing, Deku. I'll text you the meetup place. See ya then. And with that, the cloud user hung up the phone as Izuku texted Yumiko. A few moments later, Inko watched as her son came out of his room dressed in his kanji shirt and casual pants, heading to the front door. Izuku, sweetie, where are you going? Hey mom, sorry, I'm going to hang out with my friends. I'll text you when I'll be back. And with that, the boy headed out, not noticing the happy tears of his mother. Oh, okay, sweetie, have fun. The mother smiled as she wiped her eyes. Despite giving her blessing, she had her worries about all of the training. But hearing those words, how her son was heading out for fun with friends, it made all the worries and anxieties worth it. Meeting up with Aburo, who was in a similar outfit as the day before, the two waited as Yumiko approached. She was wearing a simple gray shirt, cargo pants, and sneakers, looking kind of like a cadet dressing casually. Seeing the girl, Aburo held a hand out to her. So, you're Deku's training partner, huh? Name's Aburo Shirakumo. Yumiko looked at Aburo confused. Deku, she turned to Izuku, looking for an answer. Well, Shirakumo-san heard a bad nickname for me and changed it into a good one. So, Deku. Does that make sense, Yumiko-san? The green-haired boy looked a little embarrassed. The girl nodded at that as she turned to Aburo and bowed lightly. It is a pleasure to meet you, Shirakumo-san. I am Yumiko Ueda. Please call me Yumiko or my future hero name, Burose, the archer heroine. She then turned to Izuku. Izuku-kun. May I call you Deku as well? I will still call you Izuku-kun though. Izuku blushed a bit and nodded as Aburo chuckled. Sure thing, Yumiko-chan. You can call me Aburo. You too, Deku. Alright, Aburo-san. And you can call me Izuku. The boy looked incredibly nervous as Izuku clapped his hands. So, what are we doing, Oboro-san? Oboro slung an arm around Izuku as he grinned. Glad you asked, Izuku-kun. We're already in front of where we're going. Yumiko tilted her head and turned to entrance of the building they were in front of. Og Arcade? We're going to an arcade. Correct, Yumiko-chan. Oboro slung his other arm over her as he grinned. Games and play is going to be our day, hey, that rhyme. Yumiko nodded before she turned her head and frowned a tiny bit. Izuku-kun, are you sick? You are looking rather pale. The quirkless boy frowned and sighed. I don't think this is a good idea. He looked down to his red shoes. People don't really like me in their business. Oboro frowned but shook his head and started to drag the two in. None of that. We're here to have a good time. It's going to be fine. Kicking down the door, the two awkward Verdantets looked around to see a very chill-looking place with a slight old-school vibe. Old games were all around, and what absolutely shocked Izuku was the old arcade game cabinets. Oi, loud. What did I say about kicking the door open? Izuku and Yumiko turned their heads to see a lady sitting at what appeared to be the prize desk. She was a young woman of average build and height, with brown eyes, and long gray hair styled into dreadlocks, and was currently tied up in a ponytail. She was wearing a dark purple dress shirt with the sleeves rolled up to her elbows, black jeans, black boots, and a pair of shades. On her shirt was what appeared to be a name tag. Oboro looked at the lady nervously. Sorry, Needle, wanted to bring my new friends here. The woman sighed and moved her shades as she rubbed her eyes. All right. Fine. Putting her shades back on, she looked at the two newbies. Name's Shiori Murray, owner of Og Arcade. Here, we call each other by our gamer names. So call me Needle Hair, or just Needle for short. You friends with Loud here? She points her thumb at Oboro as the blue-haired boy chuckled. Yeah, I go by Loud Cloud here. Don't worry about paying for the ID cards. I invited you both out, so I'm paying. Yumiko nodded as she turned to Shiori. Yumiko Uwada. My title will be Burroughs. Shiori smirked. Straight to the point. A girl after my own heart. She then took a picture of Yumiko with her phone and walked back to the counter. Typing a few things into an old-school computer, a small machine popped out a new ID as she tossed it to the archer. All done. What about you, green boy? Izuku looked at the gray-haired woman nervously. I Izuku Midoriya. I'll go by Deku. If it's all right for me to be here. Stopping her typing, Shiori sighed and looked at Izuku. You a thief? A villain? You a cheater at games? Izuku shook his head. No, then why the fuck would I give a damn? She took his picture and printed out another ID card, tossing it to Izuku. If it has to do with them primordial reds you wear, then I ain't kicking you out. Loud's paying for your startup fees. If you keep coming back every month and renewing your card, I don't give a fuck. Izuku felt some tears start to form as he shook his head and smiled. Thank you, Murray-san. Shiori pushed her shades down and gave a smile. It's just business, kid. And call me Needle. The green-haired boy nodded as he joined his friends. Oboro took the two towards the games around before stopping in front of a certain game. He gained a serious look. Of course, my rival. Izuku blinked and turned to the game. Disco Rebellion. Yeah, the most intense of dancing games. Oboro pointed at the high score list. See right there. I'm currently in second place. Alien Queen took my top spot. Again. Stretching his limbs, he prepares to take the high score once more. Yumiko tilted her head. If I may, why did you invite us out instead of this alien queen? Oboro paused and gave a weak chuckle. Well, honestly, I've never met Alien Queen before. A cool rival, and I wish to meet them at some point. But when it comes to actual friends, I have. He turned to the two with a smile. It's actually just you two. Yumiko was silent for a moment before she gave a tiny smile. That's the same with me. Same here. I'm honestly shocked you guys want to hang out with me. Izuku looked away nervously. Of course we want to hang out with you, dude. Oboro smiled as he chuckled. We already avoided getting in trouble on that roof, remember? Yumiko looked between the two and tilted her head. I did not get in trouble with a roof. Do we need to go to a roof and get in trouble to make friends? No, Oboro stopped and thought about it. It worked with Deku and so, maybe, wanna commit roof trespassing later. Not at the moment, as we are currently going to play arcade games. Yumiko nodded seriously. Perhaps when we get into 𝐬𝐻𝐬. 𝐬𝐻𝐬. 𝗲𝐵RO looked at the two before smirking and chuckling a little bit. 𝐶𝐶𝐶. Guess I know which course I'm going to try for. Then we can do some heroic roof trespassing. Izuku stared at the two's strange conversation for a moment before, slowly, he started laughing. That caused a chain reaction as 𝗲𝐵RO burst out laughing, while Yumiko started to quietly laugh. The three hero hopefuls, all with different stories, would look back to that moment and remember fondly. Remember the day that Deku, Burrows and Loud Cloud's friendship truly started. Not due to some crazy event, but just a silly moment between friends. Calming down from laughter, the three would turn back to the arcade games with smiles on their faces. The two Verdantets would cheer on their friend as he worked to surpassing the high score of his rival. Later on, the two boys would look absolutely defeated as Yumiko stood behind them with a neutral face and a peace sign. Behind them was a zombie shooting game. Yumiko smoked both their scores as Shiori laughed from behind the counter. A little bit later, the Cloud user and Archer would be slightly ribbing Izuku as he blushed. On the almighty quiz game, Izuku ended up getting a perfect score, toppling the current top players such as 𝗀𝐻𝐬 and 𝗧𝗵𝗃. Despite the teases, Izuku was smiling widely. After that, the trio would then end the day off with 𝗲𝐵RO dragging the two introverted greenettes into the photo booth. After a flash, the three walked out as the booth printed 3 copies of the photo. With the photos in their hands, the three friends laughed joyfully as they said their goodbyes to Shiori. Leaving, they were filled with joy, even as they said their goodnights to one another, as well as creating a promise to hang out again next weekend. As Izuku returned home after a long day, he couldn't erase the smile plastered on his face. Over dinner, 𝐀𝐦 felt so much happiness for her son, as he recounted all the fun he had with Yumiko and 𝗲𝐵RO. Later on, after doing his nighttime routine, he found himself laying down on his bed, staring at the ceiling. With a small turn, he found himself looking at the new picture frame. It held the arcade photo booth picture with him, Yumiko, and 𝗲𝐵RO. 𝗲𝐵RO slinging his arms over their shoulders, as Izuku looked nervous but smiling, and while Yumiko stared at the camera stoically, but holding a tiny smile. Overall, it looked like 3 friends hanging out friends. That was a change that Izuku had to get used to. But not a change that he hated. Not one bit. A small smile formed on his face as he found his eyelids growing heavy. So, our so-called Goliath wasted the technology and was arrested? The figure in the darkness spoke as the sounds of life support could be heard all around. An old-looking doctor nodded as he walked up to the individual in the chair. Yes, my lord. Still, a solid test run. Our technology did work, but was too weak and exposed. The doctor then gained an evil grin as a strange monster walked up to his foot. Thankfully, Johnny was able to take our test subject away. Now we have the perfect base for Namu. Ah, perfect. Hopefully young Tamura will be able to work with it. The individual then paused. Speaking of, how is he and his caretaker? The doctor sighed. Still acting like a brat, my lord. How that Namu can stand him, I can never tell. She truly is a skilled caretaker. And patience Garaki. Tamura will grow into the perfect vessel of hatred with enough time. He then motioned with his hand. But, for now, I will not hold you from your work. The doctor nodded. Thank you, Lord All for One. Garaki turned to the monster next to him. Johnny, back to the lab. The monster named Johnny screeched as a black ooze escaped its mouth, covering the doctor and itself, making them disappear. The man, now named All for One, held a photo in his hand. He smirked. Now, in the photo was the broken gauntlets from the giant villain. What should be tested next? All the while, the sounds of life support echoed in the darkness. Izuku Midoriya's Ketsubutsu analysis for the future book #1 Entry 2. Yumiko Ueda Lady Nagin's apprentice. Hasn't said how they met, but seems to have been her apprentice for a good few years now. Quirk, longbow. Allows her to transform her left hand's thumb and pinky into a bow. Can shoot anything using that bow with absolute control, and can, as she states, imbue power into what she shoots for more strength. What else can this imbued power do? Questions for later plans to get into Ketsubutsu as well. Has already decided on her hero title, the Archer Heroine. Burrows, my training partner, and very skilled with close quarters combat. We've sparred many times. I lose every time. Seems unused to friendship and interaction like me. While not expressive most of the time, the small expression shows her emotions clearly. Overall review. Yumiko is my first friend in a long time, and we're both working towards becoming heroes. While she is strange at times, she is a great friend, and I truly believe she is going to be an incredible hero. While I don't know much about her yet, I'm just happy to have a friend. 2 months had passed since Izuku's first meeting with 𝐀𝐦 𝐍𝐶𝐬, the former heroine Lady Nagant, and how his life changed since then. Truthfully, he's been much happier than ever before. Over the course of a month, Izuku had gotten more and more athletic. Nothing crazy yet, but still making the cleanup much easier. Like Lady Nagant said, he was working all his muscle groups. He was slowly getting stronger. Thankfully, as promised, he was tackling the garbage with protective gear. Thank goodness, as some of the trash had rust and all the works. And even then, he wasn't doing it alone, as Yumiko was assisting him along with 𝗷𝗏, who decided to join in on the training. Another gain over the month was his growing friendship with Yumiko and 𝗷𝗏. The three had a bit of a trio building. Yumiko was the straight man of the group, as she tended to take everything literally. The number of times him and 𝗷𝗏 burst out laughing cause Yumiko took something said literally. It felt nice cause Yumiko would smile and laugh along. It was nice to see her smile more and more. Meanwhile, 𝗷𝗏 was the bundle of energy to help bring the excitement up for Izuku and Yumiko. The two verdantets were rather introverted, but not against interaction. As such, 𝗷𝗏 usually led the charge for their hangouts. Their most common hangout place was, of course, 𝐷𝗏 Arcade, as the place was a great location for them to just relax. Of course, not all was sunshine and rainbows. Yumiko and 𝗷𝗏 had to experience the hard truth when they tried to go to a movie theater. Izuku tried to warn them, but they brushed it off. Only for the two to be allowed in, but had to watch in horror as the owner yelled at Izuku to stay away, "You disgusting null," a common slur used against the quirkless. Needless to say, they never went back to that place. But, to Izuku's surprise, his two friends vowed to find all kinds of locations that allowed Izuku in. It brought a tear to his eye, followed by a stream of tears which shocked the two of them. Another negative was the other tasks he had to complete. While the cleanup was going well, he couldn't beat 𝗷𝗏 in CQC, which was understandable. 𝗷𝗏 was actually very determined to become a hero way before Izuku met him. The only thing Izuku, unknowingly, influenced was his decision to try out for Ketsubutsu instead of Yua. That being said, the blue-haired boy was rather well trained. As a dancer, he already had an athletic physique as well as being rather flexible. However, what surprised Izuku and Yumiko was that he was also a Bujutsu practitioner. And because CQC and Nagant Sensei's 𝐴 weapon training, Izuku got his ass handed to him by 𝗷𝗏 pretty easily. Not only that, Izuku still couldn't figure out a fighting style. Despite the words of Yumiko, he did as Nagant Sensei to try and teach him guns. The problem? Izuku was fine, but it still didn't feel right. And he was later told why that was the case. Fighting with a gun is quite literally fighting with a loaded weapon. A gun or any kind of ranged weaponry like a bow felt like a beast you need to tame. One wrong move, and that bullet arrow is going into the wrong building, or worse, into the wrong person. For 𝐀𝐦 Sensei and Yumiko, they are level-headed in combat and patient beyond all belief. It's not a struggle or fight like it was when Izuku tried. Instead, ironically enough, their quirks summarize how they fight with ranged weaponry, as an extension of themselves. A companion to work with rather than a beast to tame. As such, Izuku gave up on the gun route. Similarly, Lady Nagant and even 𝗷𝗏 talked about how choosing the right style and weapon has to feel right for the person. For 𝗷𝗏, he feels like he can fight freely with his staff. To him, he described it as a floating feeling. Either way, the final negative came in the aspect of networking. Izuku was informed that, to be fair, he could not ask his friends to help him meet new friends. Izuku had to step out of his shell and meet new people. Problem was, most people took a single look down, saw red, and then immediately would leave or taunt him. Case in point, it was Thursday after CQC practice. Izuku had gone into the town to pick up some errands for his mother. He was tired after getting his butt kicked once again as he turned to take a back route. Problem: exhaustion does not help, as Izuku found himself getting pinned to the alley wall with a knife held to his throat. Don't say a fucking word. Take everything out. Phone, wallet, cash, everything. The thug seemed rather impatient, and Izuku truly felt he was stuck between a rock and a hard place. That was until he heard someone rushing down the alleyway as they punched the thug out of the way. The thug quickly bailed after that as the person yelled, "Yeah, that's right, run, you fucking coward," shaking their head. They turned to the stunned Izuku with a sigh. "Hey Shrubhead, you alright after that shit?" Izuku nodded as he got a look at who helped him out. The person was a taller girl with a voluptuous figure, long, wavy, white hair, which is mostly tied into a ponytail, leaving 2 locks on the sides of her face, and bangs that obscures most of the right eye of her face, and gray eyes. She had an opened black jacket with a hood, a gray V-neck shirt, a pair of blue jeans, and black boots. She also had a small duffel bag over her shoulder. She had a deadpan expression as she snapped her fingers. "Oi, Earth to Planet Chia Pet, you gonna take 15 years to respond." "Sorry," Izuku blushed in embarrassment as he rubbed the back of his head. "I'm good now. Guess I'm more tired than I thought. Training took a lot out of me." "Ugh, whatever man. I asked if you were alright. Not your damn life story." The girl then turned to leave. "Just keep an eye out. These streets are pretty sketchy, and a baby-faced muck like you is easy pickings." May I ask who you are?" Izuku was shy, but perhaps this was the chance to network. The girl then stopped and turned with a blank stare. "Is this some weird as hell pickup line? 'Cause I'm not interested." "Why the hell would I tell you?" However, she was cut off as the 2 heard police sirens approach, as the girl cursed under her breath. "Fuck, I wasted too much time." And with that, the girl ran off down the alleyway as Izuku stared confused. That changed when the police approached the teen with serious looks. One of them looked at the boy, looked downwards for a second, and then sneered at the boy before pointing his gun at him. "Get on the goddamn ground." Izuku was terrified and confused as the officer was soon whacked on the back of the head. "Knock it off, you barbarian." Walking past the officer was a tall, thin man with the face of a brown centipede. He was wearing a black tuxedo and a scarf that looks like a centipede wrapped around his neck. "Now, may we ask you questions, young man?" Izuku was silent for a moment, before stars appeared in his eyes. "Oh my god, you're 𝗀𝗱𝗃, the lead sidekick of the Night Eye Hero Agency. Your quirk and gentlemanly behavior helped with many cases." This caught the man off guard as he chuckled. "My word. That is mighty praise from you, young man." He then smiled a bit. "May we continue this in a moment?" Izuku sat there at the police office as 𝗀𝗱𝗃 nodded along with the story. "I see. The one we were chasing ran into you, and then when we came around the corner." Getting a nod from the green-haired boy, the sidekick sighed and patted the kid on the head. "Thank goodness you're safe. Apologies for all this, young man. We're simply trying to catch the volcano thieves." "Volcano thieves?" Izuku tilted his head. "Who are they?" Seeing a little confusion in the hero's eyes, Izuku continued. "I was taking a shortcut, so I'm not from this area, so I've never heard of them." "Ah, quite understandable, young man." The centipede hero nodded as he took a sip of tea. "You see, they're a group of thieves that attack different stores. While random, the police are trying to figure out who they are." "I see." Izuku thought back to the white-haired girl and frowned for a moment. "But why are they stealing?" 𝗀𝗱𝗃 sighed and shook his head. "That, we don't know. We can only hope to figure it out." He then looked at Izuku. "Now, did you happen to catch the appearance of the thief?" When looking back, Izuku didn't understand why he did it. But for some reason, thinking back to the girl, he responded with a lie. "Not really. It happened so fast that I didn't a good look. I'm sorry." "No, it's quite all right. Thank you for all your assistance." The hero then stood up and held a hand for Izuku to help stand him up. "Now come along. We kept you long enough." Exiting the room, there were 2 officers. One was scowling while the other looked nervous. The nervous-looking officer gave the hero a salute before heading. The hero chuckled and nodded as he turned to Izuku. "Now, Midoriya-kun, let's get you home, shall we?" "No." The words came from the remaining officer as he gave a glare, sneaking glances downwards. "He's a suspect. An extremely suspicious one. He stays here until he can prove himself innocent." "I'm sorry, what?" 𝗀𝗱𝗃 looked a little off-put. "He's given his testimony. All we can learn. How are you so certain he's guilty?" The remaining officer, however, scoffed and crossed his arms. "Well, how are you so certain we can trust a damn null like him?" The room went silent as 𝗀𝗱𝗃 slowly gained a furious expression. Turning to the officer, he glared. "I'm sorry, but did you, a protector of people, just say a quirkist slur to a child in front of a hero?" The officer rolled his eyes. "So what? It's obvious that the worthless brat steals like a parasite." The officer then gave a look of disgust at the sidekick. Besides, you're not much of a hero. Just a null-loving sidekick sent to help with the dregs of work. Ain't that right, Muty? Izuku frowned and stood up. That's not true. The officer turned and glared as Izuku continued. Say what you want about me, but 𝐶𝐸𝗃 is a hero. In fact, in all the hero forms, he is always one of the top 3 sidekicks, named to be the next to start their own agency. Him along with Burnin from the Flaming Sidekickers and Sirius from the Oki Mariner crew. And not only that, but he's also an icon for hero hopefuls everyone. Especially those with mutant quirks who want to be just like him. I'm inspired by him, so stop those hurtful words, you jerk. This made the rude officer gain a look of disgust. And who do you think you are to raise your voice at me, you useless null? Why, I will do absolutely nothing, Naya. Suddenly, a lean man with a ginger tabby cat head walked in as he looked at the officer. It seems you're going to need to go back to the academy for professionalism, Naya. Though at this rate, I doubt that will help, Naya. The cat-headed officer gave a small glare. Go to the head office now, Naya. The officer glared and stormed out as the Catman sighed. Apologies for that, Naya. You don't need to stick around anymore, 𝐶𝐸𝗃, Naya. Especially after such disgusting words, Naya. It's quite all right, Tamakawa-san. The hero gave a small smile as the police officer nodded and left. Turning back to Izuku, he sighed. Sansa Tamakawa. A wonderful officer. Professional and still kind. Izuku nodded as he got up. He was prepared to leave, but stopped as he pulled out a notebook and turned it to a page with 𝐶𝐸𝗃 on it. Please sign my notebook. 𝐶𝐸𝗃's eyes widened before she gave a smile. Taking a peek, he was impressed by what he saw. Of course. It would be my honor, young man. And I must say, this is quite the analysis. He laughed a little. Perhaps you will be the one to catch the volcano thieves instead. The hero shook his head and started to sign the notebook, not noticing the look that appeared on Izuku's face. Once the man was done signing, he stopped and gave the boy a small smile. Also, thank you for your words. It is nice to know I inspire so many people. Izuku gave a massive smile and a nod. Soon, he found himself walking out of the police building with a small smile. Internally, he had so many questions as to what to happen. But outwardly, he was happy. Especially with the new signature in his notebook. Meanwhile, 𝐶𝐸𝗃 was silent as he mumbled to himself. The next to start their own agency. It seems I have some things to think about. Maybe I should talk to Burnin and Sirius about this as well. Perhaps you will be the one to catch the volcano thieves instead. Izuku didn't know why the insect hero's words affected him. As a passing remark, it was praise for his hero notebooks. A praise at his intelligence that many ignored over the years. And yet, there was the traitorous voice in the back of his head. Perhaps you will be the one to catch the volcano thieves instead. That voice that kept taunting him to do something crazy. He should have turned in the description of the thief. And yet, part of him screamed it was the wrong to do that. The green-haired boy's mind was swirling around as he tried to make sense of it all. And then, in a sudden instant, Izuku was pulled out of his thoughts as he felt a tap on his shoulder. Turning his head, he saw a confused-looking Yumiko staring at him. Izuku-kun, are you all right? Oboro peeked his head up as he turned in his seat. Yeah, man. Normally you're much more skilled at the driving games than us. But you've been last for the past 3 games. The trio were currently back in the arcade, sitting at the racing machines. The past few times they played, Izuku was the best racer of the 3. And at this moment, he was in last place, crashing into multiple walls. Sorry, just thoughts on my mind. He had a shaky smile as his 2 friends looked at each other for a moment. Turning back to the green-haired boy, Yumiko gave him a pat on the shoulder. Then, can we help with those thoughts? Izuku wasn't sure what to say. He was still not used to having friends who wished to help him. So, after a moment of silence, he spoke. All right. So, have you guys heard of the volcano thieves in the area? Oboro rubbed his chin for a moment. Yeah, they're a group of thieves running around and getting in trouble with the police, right? He then crossed his arms. I've heard that despite being classified as troublemakers, they haven't been caught yet. This caused Izuku to blink. Wait, haven't been caught? Yumiko nodded as she tilted her head. I've heard about them from Kaina-sensei. Apparently, they always act in the dead of night, so no one has been able to catch them. Do police officers not have flashlights? She asked the last question with a serious expression. Oboro chuckled at that and shook his head. "Nah, I think it has something to do with their quirks. The police haven't been able to figure them out, and technically, they commit minor villain acts." "Ah." Yumiko nodded at that. "Acts that, at most, would call in a hero's sidekick. The cloud user would give a set of finger guns to the archer. Bingo." Oboro then sighed as he leaned back in his chair. Though, to be fair, not many people are upset about it. This threw Izuku for a loop as he looked confused. "Wait, what?" "Oh yeah man, those thieves? They don't just rob places blind willy-nilly." The blue-haired boy sighed. "Despite the police reports saying it's a string of random crime, they say that to avoid pointing out that all the places stolen from usually follow the mentality of the MLA, CRC, ISP, all those groups." Yumiko thought about it. Meta Liberation Army, Creature Rejection Clan, and Inhuman Supremacy Party. "I can now see why people are not upset." Izuku nodded as he thought about those groups. The less said at the moment, the better. The archer girl then tilted her head. "But, sooner or later, they'll get caught. And if you're caught and tried, you gain a villain ranking in the HSPC. A villain ranking is, to some, a permanent black mark on your life. A single look at your records and it's shown. No matter the circumstances, you gain a villain ranking. It will never go away." And perhaps that was why Izuku didn't say a word. The girl looked to be around his age. To get a villain ranking so young would ruin any chance at a future. "Perhaps you will be the one to catch the volcano thieves instead." Gaining a small smile, Izuku stood up from the game as he turned to his two friends. "I think I got my answer." Oh, Oboro chuckled as he smiled at Izuku. "Someone's got that look again." Yumiko nodded as she smiled as well. "Izuku-kun is going to do something big." What? What do you mean, guys?" Izuku tilted his head in confusion as his two friends laughed a bit. Izuku never knew it, but they were able to tell a certain look in Izuku's eye, one of determination, which usually meant he couldn't be shaken off the path he was going. And so, the two would support however they could. They stood up as Yumiko nodded and took the hands of two boys. "Well, game time is over. Time to go and start Izuku-kun's research time." "Whoa, Yumiko-san. What do you mean?" The verdant was ignored as Oboro laughed. The three would say goodbye to Shiori as they exited the arcade. And with that, the trio decided to head out. However, Oboro stopped as he patted his head. "Aw crap. One sec guys. Forgot my goggles." Rushing back into the arcade, he headed over to the racing games and grabbed his goggles before going to leave once more. But as he opened the door to leave, he found himself bumping into someone as the two fell to the ground. "Oof." Shaking his head and picking himself up, Oboro held out a hand for the person he knocked over. "Sorry about that, was trying to catch up to my friends." Taking his hand was a pink-skinned girl of medium height. Her eyes were somewhat square-shaped eyes with black sclerae and yellow irises, and notably long eyelashes below and around the sides of her eyes. Finally, she had short, fluffy, unruly pink hair slightly darker than her skin, and a pair of two thin pale yellow horns protruding from her head, hooked squarely and leaning diagonally to opposite sides. She was wearing a purple tank top with the word acid on it in turquoise, a pair of jean shorts, purple and turquoise tie-dye knee socks, and a pair of purple sneakers. All the while, she laughed and took Oboro's hand with a grin. "No worries, it's cool dude, I ain't hurt at all." Oboro breathed a sigh of relief before smiling. "That's good." He then gave her a once-over before giving a grin of his own. "Cool look you got there, Pinky." The girl just laughed and gave a smirk and a wink. "Oh really? See something you like, pilot?" Oboro laughed in return as he shook his head. "Maybe, Pinky. But I really gotta catch up with my friends." He then moved to leave before turning and giving a teethy grin and a two-finger salute. "Name's Oboro Shirakumo, by the way." "Well, I won't keep you waiting." The pink-haired girl gave her own grin. "Mina Ashido. Maybe I'll catch ya around sometime, pilot." "Shishishi, maybe Pinky. See ya." And with that, the boy headed off to catch up with his friends as the pink-skinned girl walked into the building. Looking up from her paper, Shiori blinked. "Oh. Sup, Queenie. You don't normally come Saturdays." Mina laughed and nodded as she pointed to the dance machine. "Yeah, well my rival seems to have been coming around more, and I gotta show them who the true ruler of Disco Rebellion is." She then stopped and then turned to the gray-haired lady. "Say, you know that blue-haired boy? Shiori stopped reading as she slowly looked up at Mina. You mean 𝗲𝗲𝗏? Yeah, him. He's kinda cute. Does he come around here often? Mina looked at her with a small smile as the gray-haired lady started to smile a bit. Oh, you interested in him? What about your rival in DDR? She rested her chin on her hand, covering her mouth as Mina groaned. Them? They're the person I want to bring down with all my might. Loud Cloud will rue the day they challenged the alien queen. Mina posed triumphantly after saying that. Shiori just bit her lip as she nodded. All right then. By the way, 𝗲𝗏 comes around every now and then with his pals. Mina nodded to that information and walked over to the DDR machine. All the while, Shiori burst into quiet laughter. Holy fuck, this is too perfect. I am never going to let her live this down. Returning home that night, Izuku went to work. While Izuku was still an All Might fan to death, his room had changed over the past 2 months. All Might was still everywhere, but now there was also other hero posters. Along with that were photos of Izuku and his friends. But the biggest change was a large corkboard. It was to help with his management and research, which is exactly what Izuku was using it for. Currently, he had a list of the different locations stolen from. The first thing that caught his mind was what 𝗲𝗏 and Yumiko told him. All the stores that were hit were run by rather harmful people. All held some sort of discrimination, hateful speech, etc. Izuku, sadly, was desensitized to it after experiencing it for many years. He's slowly getting better, but the trauma is not something that disappears in an instant. But back to the research, Izuku also noticed that while the places stolen from were discriminator, not everyone was harmed. Only the workers who were truly in the mindset. Following that, each store was only tackled once. But there had to be more to it, right? Izuku stared silently before he pulled out a red marker. What if the sectors? Tracing the lines between sectors, Izuku's eyes slowly widened. There is a pattern. They tackle 3 stores per sector. Sure enough, he was right. The first sector had 3 hits, and then it moved to a different sector. And if we follow the trail, then they only hit this sector twice. That means they'll still be in this sector. Rushing to his laptop, Izuku pulled up a list of the remaining stores in that area. Scrolling, he frowned. Let's see, nope. Not that one. That one allows Quirkless, so immediately it's not getting hit. He then stopped and smiled a bit. These thieves care more about the Quirkless than most people. Shaking his head, he continued. Nope. No. That one got an award from the Mutant Quirk Shelter, so not that one. He then stopped and stared at this one store and its website. Scrolling to the reviews, he gained a small smile. Wow. The owner really does not like complaints, especially calling out their hatred for weak quirks and quirkless scabs on society. I think I found the next hit. Turning to the corkboard, he circled the one store with a nod. Tomorrow, he was going to do his first ever hero stakeout. Doing a stakeout was strange to Izuku. He thought it would be craziness and espionage. Instead, he was sitting down on a bench with some yakitori in his hand. Nice to know there was a kind yakitori stand in this area. For a bit, Izuku felt that maybe he was wrong. Maybe he was still just that stupid Deku that his class talked about. That was, until some smoke exited the store, and 2 individuals booked it, as the workers screamed about thieves and police. His eyes widened. He got it right. Getting up from the bench, he quickly but quietly followed the 2 down the different alleyways. The sounds of police sirens all around as the 2 in front of him became more frantic and nervous. Just then, one pointed to an alleyway as they rushed down it. However, Izuku had studied the alleyways in the area the night before. That was a dead end. But the green-haired boy still followed. As Izuku turned the corner to the dead end, he saw 2 individuals arguing. Fuck, we're cornered. What are we gonna do? The other voice groaned as they glared at the first. How should I know, you idiot? You're the one who led us down this path. Peeking a little closer, Izuku could see the 2 being 2 teens around his age. The first person, the one worrying the most, was a boy with a lean build, average light brown skin, and grayish-blue eyes. He appeared to be a tinge shorter than Izuku. He had grayish-blue hair tied into a ponytail and an elongated face, causing his mouth to protrude forward like a bill. But what caught Izuku's eyes was the boy's hands, being a larger size, and having what appeared to be very flexible wrists and slick, durable bright orange fingers. His outfit consisted of a simple black hoodie, dark gray sweatpants, and a pair of teal sneakers. The other person was the same girl from the previous encounter that he had. Same outfit and everything, as she was the one glaring down at the other boy. Speaking of, the boy was holding the duffel bag that the white-haired girl had before. Hearing the approaching sirens, Izuku quickly scanned the perimeter, and in the corner of his eye, he saw a fire escape. So, rushing over to it, he turned to the two and spoke in a loud whisper. "This way." The two thieves were very confused and looked around, but soon saw a person by a fire escape. Realizing this was their out, the two followed as all three hurried up to the roof. Looking down, the three saw the police and the centipede hero Centipter enter the alleyway. Seeing no one around, the police started talking back and forth as Centipter looked up. Looking up into the evening sky, he saw a glimpse of the three. They didn't move, but Centipter was able to make out Izuku Midoriya, peeking over with a determined burn in his eyes. He never fully understood why he did it, but Centipter sent the VoidRebirth a smile as he turned to the police. "The thieves escape. Let's try and hurry to catch them. They must have gone down another alley." With responding nods, the police and hero left the alleyway as the three kids on the roof let out sighs of relief. The grayish-blue boy groaned as he dropped the duffel bag. That was too close. And whose fault was that, dumbass? The girls scoffed and turned to their helper. "Thanks for the save, pal. Don't know why, though." Izuku turned to them with a sheepish grin. It's no problem at all." Upon looking at the one who helped them, the white-haired girl's eyes widened as she pointed at Izuku. "Wait a minute. You're that guy I ran into before." "Like, do you mean literally or a date?" The duck-billed boy's head flew forward to the roof ground as the girl glared, her fist seeming to steam as a bump started to form on the downed boy's head. "Shut the fuck up, Tsumugi." The girl groaned as she looked at the boy with a tired expression. "So, what's your goal? You already snitched me to the police before, right?" Izuku was silent for a moment before he looked away nervously. Well, the white-haired girl stared at him confused before it clicked. "Wait, did you seriously not tell the police my appearance?" Getting a shy nod in response, the girl looked baffled. "What the fuck? Why the hell would you do that?" Izuku gave a deadpan expression. "To be fair, I had no idea who you were nor why you did what you did." He sighed. "You were, well." The duck-billed boy slowly got up and rubbed his head. "A bitch?" Before getting punched in the head again. "I was gonna say sharp-tongued." The green-haired boy sweat dropped at the downed boy as he continued. "But, if you were truly a heartless criminal, then you would have just left me be. But you didn't." He then gave a small smile. "So, I was hoping to figure out why you were a criminal." The white-haired girl nodded as she crossed her arms and raised a brow. "Yeah, and how the fuck did you find us? The police haven't been able to track us down, and it's only been a couple of days. When did you decide to try and find my ass like a creepy stalker?" Those words, however, made Izuku flinch and freeze up. "Quit it with the stalker books, boom. That should drill it into your head, you fucking nerd." "Teacher, Deku's being a creep again." Deku stopped stalking the other students out of jealousy. A flood of bad memories entered his mind as the girl noticed this. She frowned for a moment before sighing. "I'm not mad, idiot. More trying to figure out how, 'cause we go after places at random." "But, you don't?" Izuku said this as the white-haired girl and the now standing grayish-blue-haired boy looked at him in confusion. "You guys do have a pattern. I thought that was clear." The two thieves stared at him for a moment before turning to one another. They would lean in and whisper to one another before separating. The girl would sigh and nod. "All right, we'll tell you our names after you meet the boss." The duck-billed boy nodded. "Yeah, and then you can figure out whatever weird past relationship stuff between the two of you after." And immediately he was sent to the ground once more as a tick mark was growing on the white-haired girl's head. "We never dated. I just helped Shrubhead here from getting shanked by a random crook." She then turned to the green-haired boy with a tired glare as she picked the grayish-blue-haired boy by his collar. "Well, hurry up, bush boy, 'cause I ain't gonna fucking wait." Giving a nod, Izuku found himself following the two down the fire escape. Following the two, Izuku felt a tiny bit of worry. He knew he needed to trust these two. But there's also the chance they could take back their word and make sure he never tells a soul. However, what happened instead surprised him as they walked towards an older beaten-down building. Upon reaching the building, a rush of children started to head out the door towards the group. "Kanako-nichan, Tsumugi-nichan." Kanako sighed and rolled her eyes as she picked up a couple of the kids, while 𝐀𝐦 swiftly hugged a whole bunch as they knocked him down to the ground. The white-haired girl laughed at the situation and shook her head. "All right, you little brats. We got the message. We need to talk to Megumi Nichin, all right?" The kids all nodded and smiled. "Got it." After that, they ran back into the building as the two thieves followed. Izuku stood out there, a little confused and shocked, when he felt a hand land on his shoulder. Turning his head, he saw a big, bulky man with gold-yellow skin. He had 2 spikes on the back of each of his shoulders. His head was a pair of inclined planes with an apex in the middle, and he has a black crater in the middle of his forehead. His eyes were also pure red, and he had large fangs. However, in comparison, his clothes consisted of brown sweatpants, large boots, and a red shirt. The man tilted his head as he looked down at Izuku. "So, who are you, kid?" "I, Izuku Midoriya. Sorry for bothering you, sir." The green-haired boy bowed as the man scoffed and walked past. "Nah, it's all right, kid. Considering you came in with Kanako and 𝐀𝐦, you must be at least all right." He then stopped and turned his head. He peeked down for a sec before looking the boy in the eye again. "Oh yeah, name's Spike. Now come on in." Izuku stared but slowly nodded as he followed Spike into the rundown building. Upon entering, Izuku would see a bunch of children of different shapes and sizes. Some had mutant quirks, some had what appeared to be dangerous quirks, and then, there's what caught his eye. A couple of children wearing the same shoes as himself. He never talked about it much, but primordial reds were an unintentional sign of the quirkless. As the world gained less and less quirkless, many companies stopped catering to their needs. One such company being Detonarat, a company known to accept all shapes and sizes of quirks. It was not a pleasant experience when the people there stared down at Izuku like he was a parasite, all the while refusing to service him because they don't help dying breeds. He watched as the quirkless kids looked to him in slight shock as they saw his shoes. He gave them a smile as they scurried away. Turning his head, Izuku saw a tall boy with a very muscular physique, large brown eyes, and orange, flame-shaped hair. He had some small brownish-orange stones over his arms and was wearing an orange shirt, black cargo pants, and brown boots. "So, you're the one who helped Kanako and 𝐀𝐦." He spoke with authority and was slightly intimidating, until Spike walked up and chopped the boy on the head. "Oi, knock it off." The boy rubbed his head with a frown and a glare, which was matched by Spike. The boy then sighed and nodded. "Right, sorry, Pops." Turning back to Izuku, he sighed. "The name is Megumi Iwata, leader of the Volcano Thieves." "Why, yeah though?" He turned to the two who were waving their hands in a no-don't-do-it manner. Kanako-san and 𝐀𝐦-san." Megumi stopped and looked at the boy with narrowed eyes before he sighed. "Let me guess. Those two didn't tell you their names?" Getting a nod, the orange-haired boy turned to Spike, who gave the two individuals a whack on the head. The thieves' leader sighed. "Sorry. They're rather thick-headed at times, but are very loyal." Getting another nod from the boy, the leader continued. "The white-haired girl is Kanako Hizono, and the grayish-blue-haired one is 𝐀𝐦 Kazutani, my siblings in arm." He then crossed his arms as he gave the Verdantet a stern look. "Now, what was this about you finding us based on a pattern? We don't follow any kind of pattern." This, once again, made Izuku confused. "But, you do? You guys have attacked lesser-known locations such as supermarkets and corner stores. Not only that, but you also targeted well-known discriminatory stores. Combine in the locations being in areas lesser patrolled areas, and no store being hit twice, nor any location being hit in the same sector for 3 times minimum. Then that left the anti-mutant quirk corner store you just robbed as the last spot within that sector." The entire room went silent as the thieves looked in shock. Spike, on the other hand, gave a snort and a shake of his head. "I told you kids that you'd get found out eventually." "Hey!" the duck-billed boy shouted and pointed to Izuku. "We didn't expect one of Kanako's exes to be a genius mastermind." This caused a loud bang as 𝐀𝐦 was sent to the floor by a blushing and glaring Kanako. "For the last fucking time, we didn't date. I literally ran into him when I stopped someone from mugging him. Listen the first time airhead." "Oi!" 𝐀𝐦 stood up and banged heads with Kanako. The two forehead to forehead as an electric spark went back and forth in their eyes. "I ain't an airhead, you bitch." "Oh, you wanna go, ducky?" The white-haired girl cracked her knuckles. "Let's fucking go." Megumi stared at the two and sighed as he turned back to Izuku. Well, guess we were following a pattern we didn't know. He then gained a serious look. So why go through all this trouble? Why hunt us down? I want to stop you. Izuku was shaking a little bit as the orange-haired boy's look slowly turned into a glare. What you're doing isn't going to help anyone. And I want to stop the thieving. Meguma just scoffed and pointed to all the little kids watching them from the doorways. And damn them to a bleak future. Izuku went to counter that, but was stopped as Meguma continued. We tried, wanted to be heroic kids like you. But we couldn't. The world wouldn't let us. He then sighed and rubbed his eyes. So we went about it our way. Pops, he's one person. There's us 3, and then there's close to 15 other kids. Street rats aren't accepted well. So we went with our only path forward. Meguma then gave a heated glare. We refuse to let these kids suffer. And if we need to be villains to do it, then so be it. Suddenly, Meguma was nailed in the back head with a chair as he turned to glare at his 2 siblings fighting. Who threw that? They both immediately pointed at the other as Meguma stomped forward. What did I say about fighting? I swear you two. The 2 tried to argue back, which led to the 3 arguing back and forth as Spike walked into the scene, groaned as he rubbed his face, and then walked away. While the 3 thieves argued, a small honey blonde girl came up and tugged on Izuku's pant leg. Turning his head, he saw her looking at him in confusion. Are you 𝐀𝐦 and 𝐀𝐦's friend? Are you a meanie? Izuku chuckled a little bit before shaking his head. Well, I hope I'm their friend. As for being a meanie, I hope not. I'm trying to be a hero. This caused a wave of silence as everyone turned to him. The little girl's eyes widened as she looked down nervously. Then. Would I be able to be a hero too? This threw Izuku for a loop until he looked down and saw something. Primordial reds. Seeing this and the nervousness on the girl, Izuku remembered the scene a little over a month ago. Kneeling down to the girl, he gave a smile. When I met my mentor, I asked the same question. And you want to know what she told me? The girl looked curious as she nodded. Smiling, Izuku continued. She said depends on if they're willing to put in the hard work. If they are, then yeah, they can be a hero. He then chuckled a bit. And now I'll repeat the same questions she asked me to you. Would you be that person? The one to become a quirkless hero? Would you be willing to put in the effort needed? So, your answer. The girl was shaking a bit as she nodded. Why yes, I want to be a hero. Then, Izuku gave a big wide smile. You can become a hero. Tears started to form in the girl's eyes as she smiled widely and hugged the boy. Izuku smiled and patted her head. Train hard. And when you grow up and get into a hero school, I'll keep an eye out for ya. Then we can be heroes together, okay? Oh, okay. The girl continued to cry happy tears as the other kids started to come closer and swarm the VoidRebirth. They were bouncing around with smiles. All the while, Izuku had a big smile on his face. Soon, one kid smiled widely. Does this mean 𝐀𝐦 and 𝐀𝐦 are going to try to be heroes again? At those words, however, the white-haired thief coughed. Oi, brats, it's supper time. That caused the kids to rush off of Izuku and towards the kitchen. Off to the side, Meguma had watched the scene play out before he walked forward. Hey, Midoriya. Izuku turned to the flaming-haired boy as Meguma continued. We're not going to stop what we're doing. You can see what we're fighting for. He pointed to the door the kids went through as he sighed. There's no real chance to provide for all of them without what we do. Why not try to be heroes? This made Meguma stop as Izuku continued. They said that you wanted to be heroes, so why don't you? I'm gonna say this once. We don't want to be heroes. The volcano user sighed and turned away. So just stop already. Those words, however, made Izuku frown as he stood up and looked at Meguma. The two stared each other down for a while before Izuku gained a smile. And in response, I'm not going to stop either. Meguma scoffed and turned to leave. I don't doubt that whatsoever. With that, he walked off with Kanako and Tsumugi following him out. Spike walked up to the VoidRebirth as he placed a hand on the boy's shoulder. Izuku flinched for a moment before calming himself down, as he saw the older man look at him with concern. You all right? Receiving a nod, he sighed. That's good. Anyways, want a ride home? The man pointed to a beat-up van out in the front. Izuku just shook his head. That's all right, sir. I need to memorize the path here anyways. I'm not one to back down. HMPH. The man exhaled a small chuckle as he patted the boy on the head. Then the best of luck. Perhaps you'll be the voice they listen to. After saying that, the man walked off into the doorway as the 𝗲𝗏𝗃 left, determined to save the three thieves. Over the next while, 𝐬𝐻𝐻 kept returning. No matter how many times the thieves told him to beat it, he just kept coming back. And every time, he would do the same thing. Ask the same question. Even after every response being a no, he continued to come and play with the kids. They found the 𝗲𝗏𝗃 very fun, and 𝐬𝐻𝐻 even helped the different kids with their quirks. Slowly, but surely, the thieves warmed up to the quirkless boy. Perhaps it was the optimism, but the three found themselves laughing and chatting every now and then. But they still stood strong. That was, until that one night. Wednesday night. After meeting the thieves that one Sunday, it had been a little over a week. But despite that, 𝐬𝐻𝐻 never lost hope. After playing with the same honey blonde-haired girl from before, who he learned was named Sakura, 𝐬𝐻𝐻 stood up and stretched. The kids were off to supper once more, and 𝐬𝐻𝐻 had to head out soon. But before he left, he turned to see the three thieves standing there. Unlike the other days, 𝐬𝐻𝐻 didn't make any request to the thieves. And seeing that, 𝐬𝐻𝐻 watched as the three looked uncertain. That was when he felt he made the impact needed. Approaching the orange-haired leader, 𝐬𝐻𝐻 held a hand out to Maguma with a smile. "Become heroes with me." The thieves stared at 𝐬𝐻𝐻 for a moment as they sighed in relief. Tsumugi then spoke up. "You are crazy, aren't you?" "Yeah, man," Kanako continued. "We already told you it was impossible, and that we don't want to be heroes." "No, I think you're lying to yourselves." This made them stop as 𝐬𝐻𝐻 clenched his one hand by his side into a fist. "If you truly wish to not be heroes, then I wouldn't have pushed. And not only that, why did you all look so uncertain when I didn't ask?" This made them flinch for a moment as 𝐬𝐻𝐻 continued. "I truly believe that this best path forward for you all, and the path you all want too." 𝐬𝐻𝐻 stood confidently. "Over the days I've come here, I learned about the true volcano thieves. Not the evil troublemakers everyone thinks you are, but the caring individuals who want to bring a better life to these children." He then walked up to Maguma, the lava man towering over him. Yet no hesitation was in the 𝗲𝗏𝗃's eyes. "You fight for those who aren't given a chance, to give them the opportunities they need. However, will it forever be like that?" The three stopped and stared as 𝐬𝐻𝐻 continued. "Sooner or later, this lifestyle will transform into something much worse. The second you're caught, your dreams for a brighter future will be dashed away along with any chance of a better life for the kids here." Maguma glared down at the boy at those words. "So what? We're supposed to go along with a corrupted system instead?" "No," 𝐬𝐻𝐻 yelled once more. "I know more than anyone how corrupted heroics can be. My entire life had people sabotaging me and refusing to accept me as a person solely because of a second toe joint. They boosted up my biggest abuser of all and is going into heroics. There's no way in hell a school like UA would pass him up. Meanwhile, I was barred from every hero school heroics exam, except for one." He then stepped forward as Maguma took a step back. "I refuse to give up now. It'll just prove all those people right if I did. Instead, I'm going to change the system from the inside out. I'm going to even further beyond." His mind went back to the image of the little quirkless girl. The one who, just like him, looked for someone to say that they can be a hero. A symbol to show that anything was possible if you tried, no matter how many times it takes. Years later, people would ask the volcano thieves, "What made you become a hero? What was the final push towards that life?" They would have one answer. The glowing determination within 𝐬𝐻𝐻 Midoriya's eyes that night. "I'm going to become a symbol for the world. A hero people can look up and believe that nothing is impossible. That anyone can be a hero. And I know that you three can be heroes as well. And I know deep down, you want to be as well. For the children of this orphanage. For all those struggling in the world. You can become their hero. You can change the lives of these people. So what do you say?" He'd hold his hand out one more time. "Will you become heroes with me?" The three were silent as they turned to one another. A look of understanding traces their eyes as Maguma steps forward. Heroes. A small flash of memories appeared as Maguma watched three kids sit in a circle. They vowed to be heroes for their father and their little siblings. But it then changed to the three sitting together, defeated. He remembered it all too well. When all the others denied them. Told them that 3 street rats can't be heroes. It was when they decided to try and help their dad however they could, which slowly turned into them becoming the volcano thieves. However, now, it was like a bright light was there. A new doorway to take. One going back to the old dream of the three. A smirk appeared on his face. "All right, we'll play it your way." And takes Izuku's hand. Kanako and Tsumugi mirrored that smirk as Meguma spoke confidently. Heroes for future. Izuku would return the smirk. Heroes for the future. And once that was done, the four gave a small laugh as big smiles appeared on their faces. The thieves began to rib Izuku for his craziness as the boy blushed. All the while, Spike would be watching quietly from the hall with a proud smile on his face. He'd walk off and give the kids some space. Slowly, memories of the past began to enter his mind. When he was but a young man, finding 3 orphans stranded on the streets. 3 little kids with eyes filled with fear. The gold-skinned man would give the 3 children a small smile and hold a hand out, and then, the scene would fade, and Spike found himself back from memory lane. Remembering the moment that just occurred. The smiles they had? A small tear rolled down his eye. A real guiding star that won. Wiping away the tear, he chuckled a bit. For the first time in my life, I can say that the future is looking bright. Thank you for helping them, Midoriya. Lady Nagant stood there as she rubbed her eyes as she looks down at the boy in a 𝗃𝗃. So let me get this straight. You learned about a group of thieves going around, decided to investigate them alone, managed to figure out their pattern in less time before any of the police could, proceeded to help them escape from the police, spent time with them for over a week, and then convinced them to try for heroics. You said I should be networking. The deadpan look Izuku received did not lessen the amount he was sweating in nervousness. Plus ultra. Lady Nagant gained a small tick mark on her head as she looked at the boy. Well, kiddo, I got good news and bad news. She stretched her arms as she looked at him. Good news. You're halfway done one of the tasks, and it hasn't even been 2 months. This brought a smile to Izuku's face, which was quickly dashed away as the former heroine cracked her knuckles. Bad news. You told me this information on a Tuesday, which is sparring day. Hearing that, Izuku stands up with a small smile. Don't worry, I have secret technique for this. A few moments pass before Izuku puts his hands together and immediately starts to run away. 𝐁𝐦. The sniper blinked for a few seconds before her tick mark grew larger as she started to run after him. Get back here. Watching their friend run, Yumiko gave a deadpan yell of encouragement. Go Izuku-kun, run for your life. Oboro, meanwhile, just started to laugh and shake his head. So, that's what he was doing. Wish he talked to us so we could help. But I guess it worked out, huh? He said this as he turned to the 3 newcomers. All the while, the volcano thieves watched Izuku ran away screaming from a shouting Lady Nagant as Tsumugi turned to Yumiko. Is this a normal thing? Yumiko just nodded. I met him after he ran into a villain attack to save some blonde-haired guy letting off explosions. Blonde-haired guy? Wait, what? Oboro looked confused. I met Deku after helping him escape from a blonde-haired guy trying to chase him down, calling him Deku and useless. The archer girl blinked. I see, the blonde's name? Oboro tapped his chin as he remembered. Katsuki Bakugo, I think he said. Yumiko nodded in thanks to the blue-haired boy as she turned to the volcano thieves. Correction. I met Izuku-kun after he ran into a villain attack to save his bully Bakugo letting off explosions. I see. Meguma crossed his arms and looked towards the running green-haired boy. He said something about his main abuser having a high chance of getting into UA. They all turned to one another and nodded as Tsumugi chuckled weakly. Guess we'll have to keep an eye on that guy, eh? No shit, Sherlock. Kanako crossed her arms but chuckled a bit. Shrubhead doesn't realize he's gaining more and more friends ready to kick ass to help him. Huh. Oboro laughed at that. Got that right. They all turned to Izuku, who was now trying, and failing, to dodge blanks from Lady Nagant. Meguma gained a stern and slightly tired expression. He's going to get into more situations, isn't he? Kanako looked at Meguma with a raised brow. I don't know, boss. Sure, he did some crazy stuff, but he's still just one guy. How much trouble could he possibly get into? The 5 then felt a slight chill as Kanako blinked. I just jinxed it, didn't I? The others nodded and responded at the same time. Probably. They all stopped and started to laugh as Izuku continued to run away from Lady Nagant, who was getting more and more frustrated. Get back here and fight like a hero, you brat. It's called a tactical retreat. The Verdantet ducked under another blank round as the camera panned to the sky, with Izuku's screams echoing out. Izuku Midoriya's Ketsubutsu analysis for the future book #1 Entry 3. Oboro Shirakumo, a friend I made escaping Kekken. He dragged Yumiko-san and I to an arcade where he goes by the nickname Loud Cloud. Quirk, Cloud. Oboro is able to create different sized clouds of varying densities, enough to make them able to be touched and hold the weight of one or more people. He is working on making them float at faster speeds. What else can he do with it? Can he shape and form the clouds? Questions for later talked about how he planned to go to UA before, but decided to change his mind to Ketsubutsu. Wonder why. Skilled in Bujutsu and some capoeira. Seems his dance skills at DDR helped. He keeps talking about defeating his rival alien queen, whoever that is, very friendly, and the most energetic of our trio. Oboro-san, Yumiko-san and myself. But he does seem to be hesitant to open up sometimes. But that's fine. Yumiko-san and I are like that as well. Overall review. Oboro is the one who gave me the nickname Deku, and believes that I'm going to become a hero who can do it. He's friendly and wisecracking, always smiling and laughing whenever he can. He's passionate and mysterious. I still have much to learn of him, but I'm happy to be his friend. To say the transition of 3 friends to 6 was smooth would extremely false. Mainly with Lady Nagant, who pretty harped on Izuku to call her Kaina-sensei, as she was tired of the hero worship. The Volcano Thieves, name currently in the reworks, were shocked at the amount of work Izuku was tackling with online classes, cleaning the beach, and getting his butt kicked over and over again in CQC. He didn't understand where the camaraderie between the 3, Oboro and Yumiko, came from, but Izuku was happy all his friends were getting along. However, if anything was a problem, it was Izuku's struggle to find a weapon style. But besides that, he was still fighting. A lot of fighting. Especially with the one new friend he made during the month. Izuku, growing up, really admired Katsuki's tenaciousness. The ability to face anything and do anything without fear is rather admirable. However, in this moment, Izuku found himself cursing Katsuki and everything he stood for. It was just another random day, finishing up training for the day, as he walked away from the beach on his own. His friends were all busy, so it was just a simple walk back home for him. What his tired mind didn't consider was Katsuki waiting for him with his gang of Aldra goons on the road. Izuku watched the 2 blonde glare with explosions sparking his hands. Nope. And with that, the Verdantet turned and rushed down a nearby alleyway. A loud explosion could be heard behind him as Izuku kept running. Fucking Deku. Seriously, why is he so persistent? Izuku was running and jumping over trash cans as the blonde bully chased after him. However, as Izuku turned the corner, he had to roll and dodge a punch from the rock-armed ex-classmate. The quirkless boy avoided the attack, but ended up getting cornered in an alleyway. Crap. An explosion rang out as Bakugo slowly started to walk down the alleyway towards Izuku, with fingers, eyeballs and Rocky following, as Katsuki would call them. End of the line, Deku. Thought you could avoid me forever, nerd. Now, Izuku would look back at this moment and blame those around him. From Yumiko's bluntness, Oboro's high energy, Tsumugi's honesty, Kanako's crassness, Maguma's confidence, and Kaina-sensei's, well, everything. But all of them combined somehow allowed Izuku to open his mouth. Seriously, why are you so obsessed with me? Do you have a sea crush on me or something, and this is some kind of tsundere act? The blonde froze in shock and rage as his lackeys held their breath, trying not to laugh. However, Izuku didn't stop. His tiredness just kept him going. No, seriously. I haven't been bothering you. I haven't seen you in a couple months. All I've done is mind my own business. I'm not even trying for Yua anymore, and you're still hyper-fixated on me? It's leading to some concerning signs. The Verdantet sighed and shook his head. I'm going to have to refuse this twisted confession of yours. I'm attracted to having a healthy relationship, thank you very much. It was too much as Izuku heard 4 individuals burst out laughing. The angry Pomeranian stood there shaking in anger and embarrassment as his 3 goons laughed and laughed. Shut up. The goon quickly tried to stop laughing as Katsuki took a running start at Izuku. You'll pay for this, you shitty nerd. I'm gonna fucking kill you off. However, suddenly, the blonde was sent flying backwards towards his goons as Izuku blinked. Landing on the ground was a dark-skinned girl with a slender and curvaceous frame. She was laughing with a feral grin as she had a lean, athletic, and well-defined build. Wearing a school uniform, she had narrow red eyes with long, defined eyelashes, straight white hair that reached her thighs with bangs that parted to the left of her face, a set of white rabbit ears, and a small white rabbit tail. She took a glance back at the green-haired boy and laughed. "Man, you are a riot man. I was just jumping by when I heard you roasting. Not the best, but still pretty good. I give it a 7 out of 10. Turning back to the bullies, she slammed her fist into her palm as she grinned at them. "But now, looks like we got a brawl ready to happen." However, she then stopped and looked in confusion as she stared at the blonde. Wait. Looking closer, she saw that the feral Pomeranian was unconscious. Seriously, who the hell goes down in a single kick? The Aldra lackeys were trying to shake the blonde awake as they looked in slight fear. It wasn't until Rocky stopped and stared at the girl closer before he paled. "Oh shit, it's 𝐬𝐍𝐭." This caused the girl to flinch as he continued. "She's the crazed bunny girl who went around Hiroshima battling different fight clubs. She disappeared when she was taken into custody. But she's returned. Run for it." The other Aldra goons nodded and grabbed the knocked-out Katsuki as they all fled. The wind blew a rang of silence through the alleyway as both Izuku and the girl stared in shock as to what happened. After a moment, the girl groaned and ruffled her hair in frustration. "Damn it. I was hoping for a solid fight, but instead they ran like cowards. What the hell?" She sighed and walked over to a school bag, picking it up. "They even remember that damn nickname. Why must that name follow me? It's stopping me from having actual battles." Shaking her head, she turned to the quirkless boy. "Well, at least I was able to help, I guess. Later, Greenie." She then turned to leave. Izuku nodded slowly before blinking and speaking in a tired tone. "If I had a 10-yen coin for every time I was saved by a white-haired girl from getting attacked, I'd have 2 10-yen coins. Which isn't a lot, but it's strange that it happened twice." This made the girl stop and turn to Izuku with a look of confusion before she snorted in laugh at his deadpan response. "Man, are you always like this? 'Cause you don't have the appearance of a wisecracker." "Nope. Mostly exhausted from training." The boy sighed and gave a small smile. "Normally I would be collected, but I blame my sensei and friends for corrupting me." The girl's ears perked up as she looked at him. "Training, you say?" A grin appeared on her face as moved closer to the boy, looking up at Izuku as despite her ears, she was only slightly shorter than him. "What are you training for?" Izuku gained a grin as well as a fire appeared in his eyes. "I'm training to be the world's first quirkless hero." He clenched a fist as his determination grew. "I'm going to prove to the world that a quirk is not everything, that I can be a hero with my own work." The rabbit girl smirked as she held a fist out for a fist bump. "Then how about this? You and me. We're gonna spar from now on. Once I'm done with ya, you'll be a lean, mean, ass-kicking machine. What do you say?" "I say bring it." Izuku returned the fist bump with a smile. "The name is Izuku Midoriya. Nice to meet you." "Rumi Usajima. The most badass girl you'll ever meet." Rumi grinned as she then slung an arm over Izuku's shoulder. "Now then, Greenie, prepare yourself for hell." Izuku stared in shock before he chuckled weakly. He didn't doubt her based on her feral grin. Back to the present, Izuku had been meeting up with Rumi now and then to spar and improve. And truthfully, she is an extremely skilled fighter. So much so that the first few times was Izuku just getting his butt kicked over and over again by a feral rabbit. His mother was worried when he came home covered in bruises. However, the results were showing. Kana-sensei was teaching him how to be more fluid, and is a slow learning experience. But with Rumi, it was different. More intense but not overwhelming. Because they both wanted to improve and grow stronger. And Izuku found something growing inside him. Something that, at first, made him nervous. He was becoming hungry for battle. What that means is, he found himself feeling joy and excitement every spar. Before it was for growth. But now there was this driving force making him want to succeed. To win over his opponent. Why did it make him nervous though? Simple. Because he was worried it would make him like Bakugo. He connected the drive to win with the explosive individual, and it caused Izuku to feel afraid. That he was becoming like Bakugo. That was until Rumi smacked him in the back of the head. Wanting to succeed isn't a bad trait. She told him that with determination. It means you care and have the drive to move forward. The difference between you and sweaty boom boom bitch is that you still know when to slow down and help others. You're not some douchebag like him, so quit mopping and get ready to lose once again. Izuku was thankful for the rabbit girl's words. and may have gained a new individual who represented victory in his mind. However, despite that, Rumi refused to meet his other friends or 𝐀𝐦. From her words, she had her own reasons, but she mainly didn't trust working with others. This left 𝐬𝐸 with some questions, but he didn't push. It's obvious that she had reasons for it, so he just kept going. So, things were going well. Despite that, 𝐬𝐸 was still with no wins in CQC, and was still struggling to find a fighting style. And one could tell. He was feeling dejected and frustrated, and his actions were more hectic. He was forcing himself to work more and more until he succeeded, but to no avail. But someone had a plan. A plan that was so crazy, it just might work. 𝐬𝐸 and his friends reached the beach with 𝐀𝐦 as per usual when she randomly stopped. "Okay, who's there?" She turned to a pile of trash with a glare as she transformed her arm into a sniper rifle. "You've been following us for a while now. What exactly do you want?" Everyone stared in silence as they waited in anticipation and worry. The answer was revealed when a pair of white rabbit ears appeared above the trash. Suddenly, the figure rushed past Lady Nagant and the others as 𝐬𝐸 blinked. He felt lighter. However, he then realized what had happened. He was currently being carried over Rumi's shoulder like a sack of potatoes. "Rumi-san, why?" She just ignored the confused 𝗲𝗏𝗺𝗏 as she gave a wild grin to the others. "Hey, sorry, but I'm kidnapping Greenie here, later." And with that, she started to dash away as 𝐬𝐸 yelled out, "Wait, Rumi-san, 𝗵𝗲𝗿𝗺𝗺𝗺𝗺𝗺𝗺𝗺𝗺𝗺𝗺𝗺𝗺𝗺𝗺𝗺𝗺𝗺𝗺𝗺𝗺𝗺𝗺𝗺𝗺𝗺𝗺𝗺𝗺Everyone stared in silence as Yumiko turned to 𝐀𝐦. "There was a reason you didn't fire, right?" The ex-pro heroine nodded. "That's right. I could tell that whoever it was didn't have bad intentions." She then chuckled. "However, she did have a lot of battle lust, that one." "Wait." Oboro turned to 𝐀𝐦 as his eyes widened. "You think that's the one 𝐬𝐸's been seeing this past month?" Meguma hummed at that. He did say he was becoming more motivated in winning. Considering how she acted, it seems that would be the case. "Yeah, though." Tsumugi turned to Kanako. "Does this count towards the jinx you did?" "What the fuck?" Kanako glared at Tsumugi. "I didn't jinx shit. If that girl wants to hang out with Shrubhead, she can. What could possibly go wrong?" However, as soon as she said that, she and everyone around her stopped and felt a shiver of worry go down their spines. "Shit. Well, Smokey." 𝐀𝐦 walked up and placed a hand on Kanako's shoulder with a smile as a miasma started to escape her. "You've just won yourself evasive maneuvers practice." Kanako immediately started running away as fast as she could. "Damn you, Shrubhead." Blank rounds flew past her head as she screamed. Sitting on a park bench, 𝐬𝐸 was giving an annoyed glare at Rumi, who was just smirking. "Did you seriously have to do that? You could have just texted me and I would have responded." "What?" "And not completely embarrass you in front of your mentor." The rabbit girl laughed as she patted his shoulder. "I couldn't miss the chance." Also, Rumi smacked the 𝗲𝗏𝗺𝗺𝗺𝗺𝗺𝗺𝗺𝗺𝗺𝗺𝗺𝗺𝗺𝗺𝗺𝗺𝗺𝗺𝗺𝗺𝗺𝗺𝗺𝗺𝗺𝗺𝗺𝗺𝗺turn to Rumi with a glare. "Oh, what was that for?" "For not telling me who your mentor was, you moron." She gave a small glare with a slight embarrassed blush. "To think I pulled that off in front of Lady Nagant of all people." 𝐬𝐸 looked confused for a moment before a small smirk formed on his face. A few chuckles then escaped as Rumi gave a glare. "Got something funny to say?" 𝐬𝐸 shook his head and laughed. "You kept calling me a hero fanboy for, what, weeks? And yet here you are being an absolute fangirl." "WA." The rabbit girl sputtered in shock before she blushed in embarrassment. "I'm not a fangirl." The 𝗲𝗏𝗺𝗺𝗺𝗺𝗺𝗺𝗺𝗺𝗺𝗺𝗺𝗺𝗺𝗺𝗺𝗺𝗺 Verdant shrugged. "Fair enough. I mean, what has Lady Nagant done? Take down that flex guy? First of all, fuck you. And second of all, the villain's name was 𝗵𝗃𝗺𝗺, who Lady Nagant was able to outmaneuver, while also avoiding the other villains who she masterfully defeated." However, the rabbit girl stopped her explanation as she froze. Slowly turning her head, she saw 𝐬𝐸 grinning as she realized. He's the hero otaku. He already knew all this. He was just setting a trap for her. "Nerd tilde," the rabbit groaned as she fell back onto the bench. "Fuck. You played me." "Like a fiddle, my fellow hero otaku tilde." 𝐬𝐸 started laugh as the rabbit girl glared at him. But after a bit, she started to laugh alongside him. Once the two calmed down, 𝐬𝐸 turned to the girl. "So, why did you kidnap me again?" "Oh, right." The girl held a paper out to the 𝗲𝗏𝗺𝗺𝗺𝗺𝗺𝗺𝗺𝗺𝗺𝗺𝗺. "Take a look at this." Grabbing the paper, 𝐬𝐸 took a look at it before his eyes slowly widened. "Are you serious?" We could get in trouble. He then stopped and sighed. But that wouldn't stop you, would it? Nope. Rumi gave a feral grin as she hit her fist into her hand. I'm not one to back down from a challenge. However, she then became silent as she faced forward. Normally, I'd keep this a secret. I'd just keep my mouth shut and do it. But for the first time, I felt like I could bring someone else along. Giving a grin to the boy, she chuckled. So, if you feel like it, meet me there this Saturday. I'll text you my name for it. And with that, the rabbit girl jumped away, leaving Izuku on his own as he looked down at the paper. Almost every part of him screamed to ignore the paper. Almost. For deep down, he wanted to face the challenge. He wanted to improve. And he wanted to support his friend. It's just a different kind of training. And with that, he pocketed the paper and headed off. To say he thought it over a bit would be an understatement. But after back and forth, he sent his reply to Rumi. And the plan was set. It was the next Saturday night. Izuku stood across the street from the building with a nervous expression. He was standing there in a green sweater, a green baseball cap, black cargo pants, shoulder pads, shin pads, and a pair of quirkless red boots. In his hands was a mask that resembled a wooden doll. You can do this, Izuku. He was pacing back and forth as he was very nervous. It's just training. Training that could get you in serious trouble, but, shaking his head, he gained a determined look. You can do this, and you aren't alone. Rumi is supposed to be in there already. Taking in a deep breath, he placed the mask on as he went to move over to the building. However, he stopped when his foot kicked something by accident. Looking down, Izuku saw what appeared to be a chain. Part of him wanted to just ignore it. Yet another part of him was screaming to stop for a moment. Listening to the screaming part, Izuku picked up the chain. He then looked around the alleyway for a bit as he found 2 pieces of heavy scrap metal and an almost empty blowtorch. After a few moments and some sparks of light from the alleyway, Izuku walked up to the building and knocked on the door. Sliding a little flap, someone's eye stared at the figure. A teen dressed up in gear and a strange-looking weapon that appeared to be scrap metal shoddily welded to the 2 ends of a chain. Who are you, kid? Looking or challenging? Izuku was silent for a moment. I'm a nobody trying to enter no man's land for a challenge. This caused the figure to stay silent for a moment before closing the flap. Then, the door opened up to reveal a big man wearing a masquerade mask. You're gonna need a name when you enter here. You got one, kid. The boy was silent for a moment before he nodded. Call me Dekanobu. Taking a glance at the mask and then the shoes, the bouncer smirked. All right, Dekanobu. Welcome to the underground masquerade. Entering the den, Izuku saw a bunch of masked individuals around cage-style arenas where people were duking it out. Off to the side, there was a man on top of a platform with a microphone. And Drunk Lee strikes Master Beast with a deadly dragon's breath. Turning his attention forward, Izuku saw a man taking a drink from a gourd spraying fire at a werewolf man. Izuku would have went about analyzing their quirks if he didn't feel an arm wrap around him. There you are, Greenie. Ah, Tiger. Izuku turned and blushed as he looked away really quick. Standing next to him was the rabbit girl who was wearing a tight tiger-themed tank top along with a pair of tiger-themed gym shorts. She had on a pair of combat boots that fit her feet as well as a tiger mask, and her hair being tied back into a wild ponytail. And no matter how much confidence Izuku has gained, he wasn't ready for a hot, muscular girl next to him. Rumi had a healthy frame with strong muscles as well as a set of 4-pack abs. She looked like a fierce fighter, but also really pretty. Of course, this caused Rumi to raise a brow. Hey, you good, Greenie? Fine. I'm pretty good. I'm pretty good. The boy scratched the back of his head, sheepishly before shaking his head. And anyways, Tiger Bunny, right? Yep. A bunny who's fierce like a tiger. She then looked at Izuku and frowned. Dekanobu, why did you go with that name? Don't you hate that name? This made Izuku stop as he nodded. You're right. I hate the name. I was happy for the new nickname, but I think I needed to use this name one last time. He turned to Rumi with a burning determination in his eyes. I need to prove to myself that Deku isn't useless. That what I'm doing is right. This caused the rabbit to stop before she smiled slightly and patted him on the back. Then, let's do this. We just gotta wait for our turns and, excuse me, Dekanobu? The boy and girl turned to see a masked man. You've been selected to partake within a 1 versus 1 match. Is that all right with you? Izuku was uncertain as he turned to Rumi, who gave him a grin. Go for it, Greenie. Turning to the masked man, she slung an arm over Izuku's shoulder. So who's he fighting? Well, truthfully, we have 2 matches planned. He'll be fighting against a challenger known as 𝗵𝘃𝗀. After that, the Ripper will be against their rival, the Rapper, in a highly expected match. Hearing that, Rumi froze with her grin as she nodded. Izuku was confused at her actions, but clenched his fist and nodded. I'll do it. Giving a nod, the man smiled and pointed to a corridor where another worker was standing. When you're done with your acquaintance, head on over to that worker there. Turning his attention to the rabbit girl, he nodded. As for you, Tiger Bunny, you've been selected to partake in a new challenge. A massive free for all where anyone can come in. It'll take place after the champion match. Hell yeah. The rabbit girl gave a feral grin as Izuku shook his head with a fond smile underneath his mask. That kind of fit really fit Rumi. As the worker left, Izuku turned to Rumi with a tilt to his head. So what's the deal with you and the Rapper? This caused the bunny girl's ears to perk up and freeze before she sweated a little. But she patted him on the back. It's nothing, don't worry about it. However, she then stopped and looked down. By the way, she pointed at the weird chain weapon Izuku made. What's with that? Izuku chuckled weakly as she scratched his head. Honestly, I don't know. Just a gut feeling. Having gone their separate ways, Izuku found himself standing at the end of one of the corridors as the master of ceremonies started to test the microphone. This was it. Helluwu masks of the underground. We have a couple of matches lined up to wrap our night away. The master of ceremonies went off as he stood above the cheering crowd. Tonight we have 3 final matches for you. One being a good old rookie beatdown. After that is a match between 2 rivals that we've been waiting for. And finally, our very first free-for-all. The cheers echoed through the room as Izuku took a deep breath. It was nearly showtime. Starting things off, we have a battle between 2 rookies. Though the scale isn't as easy as it seems. Pointing to the opposite side of the arena. Entering in, we have the beast coming to bring the pain. Prowling on the hunt is 𝗵𝘃𝗀. Walking in from that edge of was a massive individual, wearing a tattered cloak over their head with the hood going into their mask. They also had army pants, combat boots, a pair of biker gloves, and a muzzle over their mouth. However, what caught most eyes was the fact that they were standing at 6'10", and following him was a massive lizard tail. The 𝗵𝘃𝗀 just continued and pointed towards Izuku's corridor. And in the other corner, we have the definition of the underdog. The broken doll who's decided to fight back. Will he be the David to the Goliath? It's Dekanobu. Stepping out into the ring, Izuku took slow steps as he heard the crowd fall into silence. Because Izuku had on a very telling pair of shoes. He expected this truthfully. However, the boy was shocked as the cheers started to come out. He looked around as people were cheering not just for the massive monster, but also the underdog. And off to the side, Rumi was there giving her usual feral grin and a thumbs up, to which he returned. Suddenly, he heard an exhale of breath as Izuku turned to the person in front of him. So, you are my opponent. Izuku, unsure of what to say, gave a nod. The silent type? Very well. Best of luck to you, Dekanobu. After stating those words, 𝗵𝘃𝗀 let out a mighty roar as the bell rang. Boss battle. Izuku Dekanobu vs 𝗵𝘃𝗀, time to put on a show. Action. With a mighty charge, the giant rushed forward, going for a downward punch as Izuku rolled out of the way. Taking a tight grip on his improvised chain weapon, Izuku went to move when he stopped. In an instant, he felt everything rushing through him as he stared down the enemy. All of the lessons with Lady Nagant. All the spars with his friends. Everything rushed through him as he stopped in place and took a deep breath. 𝗵𝘃𝗀 didn't understand it, nor paid attention as they went for another swing, which Izuku rolled out of the way. But the large man's ears twitched as he heard, mumbling. Signs of some sort of mutation quirk. Leaning towards some kind of transformation aspect. Many limiters visible to prevent some sort of action. But costumers are created by the individual, meaning that the limitations are self-determined. Izuku rushed forward as 𝗵𝘃𝗀 went for a tail swipe. Ducking underneath, the mumbles continued. Close quarters are strong suit. Has massive height and strength advantage. Underneath the mask, Izuku gained a small smirk as he started to spin the ends of the chain weapon he created. Solution: use my advantages. Suddenly, Izuku swung forward, letting one of the ends of the chain release and hit 𝗵𝘃𝗀 in the gut as he grunted. It wasn't much damage, but it was a start. However, the boy got cocky as he was hit with a punch to the side. sending Izuku rolling away. Picking himself back up, he shook his head. Focused. Remember Sensei's words. You've got a runner's build. You won't be All Might because you're not built for strength. You're made for speed. Kinda Sensei went back and forth with him on this, as Izuku's build started to grow. He wasn't a bodybuilder, but he was fit. So, work with your advantages. Izuku, swinging his chain around, sent one of the ends flying into the giant's face before reeling it back. However, the Verdant stopped as he watched Behemoth give a roar. Suddenly, they started to bulk up more and more, growing bigger as they slammed a fist onto the ground, leaving an impact. The impact shook the ground as Izuku struggled to catch his footing, which gave Behemoth a chance to tail swipe Izuku's legs. Faceplanting on the ground, he looked up to see a fist swinging downwards at him, causing the boy to roll away to the side, barely dodging the punch. Izuku then noticed that his chain weapon was around his leg. Frowning for a moment, the boy's eyes widened as he tried to do a breakdancing backspin. It was a little awkward in motion, but worked as the chain weapon spun around with him before hitting Behemoth in the face. This gave Izuku enough time to roll backwards away from the opponent, who turned to glare. However, Izuku paused as he saw a faint glow around the muzzle of Behemoth. And before he could question it, his opponent stopped, and the light faded. Did he? Is he holding back? I'll have to ask later, but... Izuku gained a determined look as he looked around the ring really quick. He looked at the cage, the floor and Behemoth before a feral grin appeared on his face underneath the wooden doll mask. I'm going to wrap this up. Standing tall, Izuku started to spin his chain weapon around as he shouted loudly. Catch me if you can. And with that, the boy swung and hit Behemoth in the face again. A growl escaped from the man as Izuku booked it away while spinning their chain weapon once more. Running around the edge of the cage, Izuku tossed one of the chain ends at the top of the cage. As it wrapped around the top grates, getting lodged in, Izuku saw Behemoth going in for a massive swing. But Izuku jumped up as the swing missed him, and the Verdant used the giant's fist as a launching platform. The quirkless boy, using the momentum, started to run along the cage walls for a brief period of time before hopping off. Using the chain like a swinging vine, he spun in a circle, rounding back towards the tired giant, and giving him a massive momentum-pushed kick to the face. Silence echoed through the crowd as Izuku's chain detangled and sent the boy tumbling into the arena floor. Groaning and picking himself up, the boy looked up as the unmoving giant, who slowly fell backwards onto the arena floor. I don't believe it, folks, the 𝗍𝗲 truly defeated the Goliath. The master of ceremonies was shouting loudly as they pointed down at Izuku. The winner of this match is Deku. The masquerade shouted from the top of their lungs as Izuku stared at the downed opponent in disbelief. He did. He won. That's a wrap. Winner. Izuku. The crowd cheered loudly at the quirkless boy's win. Meanwhile, the boy was stunned himself as he slowly processed what occurred. As for Rumi, she was shouting at the top of her lungs. Hell yeah, that's how you fucking doing it, Greenie. Once it finally kicked in, the boy had a huge grin underneath his puppet mask as he raised his fist into the air, causing another round of cheers and applause. Taking steps forward, Izuku approached his downed opponent, causing people to look confused. Crouching down, the boy reached underneath and slowly picked his opponent up, helping balance them on Izuku's shoulder before assisting them out. And what do you know? We got some chivalry in the underground today. This act of kindness brought some more cheers as the boy exited through the corridor. Next up is the grand match. First up, Izuku didn't pay attention to it, as he continued to bring his opponent to the back to corridor and move towards the back rooms. Sitting the man down, Izuku started to look around for first aid gear as he heard a gruff voice. Why are you helping me? This made Izuku stop and turn confused. What do you mean? You saw my features. I'm a freak, right? The figure clenched a fist and growled a bit. I've heard it before. So why are you helping me? A freak, you mean your quirk? Izuku's eyes widened as he shook his head. Are you kidding me? Your quirk is incredible. I'm so curious about what you can do. This caused the man to stop in shock as he heard a chuckle. At the doorway, there was Rumi standing there with crossed arms. Greenie here is the biggest quirk nerd I've ever seen. Give him a chance, he'll pick at your quirk. Hey, Izuku blushed underneath his mask as he groaned. Stop teasing me. The man was silent before he nodded. Thank you. He then stopped and looked at the two. Wait, how old are you? Oh, Izuku was trying to figure out what to say. However, he forgot his impulsive friend. Rumi stood proudly as she wrapped an arm around Izuku's shoulder. "We're teenagers, going to become heroes." Izuku just turned and looked at Rumi, a dumbfounded expression under his mask as the man huffed. "Makes sense. Wish I could try." This made the two confused as they tilted their head. Rumi then spoke. "Is it because you're too old to apply anymore?" "Too old? What?" Tilting their head, Behemoth spoke confused. "I'm the same age as you two though." The two were stunned silent. "Damn, you're big for your age." "Oh my god, Rue Tiger Bunny, you can't just say that." "What? It's true." The two argued back and forth as the man, actually teen, laughed and shook his head. Taking their hood off, Izuku and Rumi were shown an animalistic-looking teen with a wolf-like herd, blue fur, yellow eyes with black sclere, and dark black hair. Taking off the muzzle, the boy sighed. "I meant that. No one would accept someone like me. One look at me and I'm some dangerous animal before a person. Being a hero? A pipe dream that society refuses to accept. Then prove them wrong." The furred boy looked at Izuku confused as he stepped forward. Rumi had a look of exasperation, but also a smile as the Verdant spoke. "There are many heroes who are seen with stigma about being a villain. Gang Orca, Shishido, Centipter. All these heroes face stigma daily because they go against the norm. They're mutants who prove people wrong by being heroes. There will always be people like that. There's groups like the Creature Rejection Clan who crack down on mutant quirk users. The stigma can't go away, but that doesn't mean you can't prove them wrong." He gave a grin as he held a hand out. "I'm a quirkless kid trying to prove the world wrong. That I too can be a hero. People will hate me for trying to prove the belief of nulls wrong. Groups like the Meta Liberation Army would want my head on a silver platter. But at the same time, I'm going to try. Because my destiny is for myself to control. Because if I stand up, then the next quirkless kid has someone to look up to and stand tall themselves. What do you say? Shall we control our own lives instead of allowing society to control us and try to make this world more ideal?" The wolf boy started for a moment before he started to laugh. He laughed as he remembered a familiar face, though very different methods of the goal. One aiming for conquest and one aiming for reform. And despite before, the boy felt his heart resonate with Izuku's words. "Perhaps this is what you meant by my heart being in the right place and the wrong direction." Standing tall, the boy shook Izuku's hand. "Chijiro-kan. As of now, hero hopeful." With hope in his voice, he gave a big wolfy grin. "Pleasure to meet you." Taking off his own mask, Izuku took the hand with a grin himself. "Izuku Midoriya. Hero hopeful for Ketsubutsu Academy. Pleasure to meet you." Rumi smiled at the two before she walked forward and slapped her hand on top of the handshake with a cheeky grin. "Rumi Yuzajama. Going by Tiger Bunny at the moment. Hero hopeful wait a minute." She stopped and turned to Izuku. "Ketsubutsu. I'd thought you'd be going for Yua or something." Izuku gained a sheepish grin as the handshake ended. "Well, remember how I said people will hate me for being a null? Yeah, my school was one of them. Pretty much destroyed my records and got me blacklisted from the Yua Heroics course and a few others." The two stared at him as he continued. "But then I met 𝐀𝐦 Sensei, and she's going to be teaching at Ketsubutsu, so I have a chance." After hearing that, Rumi nodded and turned to Chijiro, giving her own handshake. "Hero hopeful for Ketsubutsu." "Same here. Hero hopeful for Ketsubutsu." Chijiro and Rumi had a spark of understanding in their eyes as Izuku was confused. But the boy shrugged and placed his mask back on. He gave the two a nod. "Let's go see if it's time for Rue Tiger Bunny's free-for-all match to begin." The rabbit girl gave a nod as Chijiro followed Izuku's example, putting his gear back on. Once ready, the three headed off towards the main arena, only to be absolutely shocked at the chaos going on. Small black portals were opening all around as people were struggling to flee. Some guests were falling, and some fighters were dropping to the ground unconscious. All the while, screams were shouting out as the building was starting to collapse. "What the fuck?" Rumi stared at the scene confused as Izuku and Chijiro nodded. Something wrong was going on. Izuku was staring at the scene, uncertain of what to do, when he heard a voice. "Help." This caused the boy to turn and see a cloaked girl being chased by the strange portals. Without a second thought, Izuku dashed off, reaching the girl, and swinging his chain weapon into the portal. It caused the portal stop before Izuku reeled it back. Only, when he did, There seemed to be a handprint crushed into the one end. This caused the boy to flinch as the portal started to approach once more towards the two of them. Only, as it did, Izuku found himself getting grabbed by a jumping Rumi, while the girl was grabbed by Chijiro. Of course, Rumi bopped Izuku in the head with a glare. Next time you run off like a maniac, let us know more on. Right, sorry. He turned to the girl that they saved. Before that, are you alright? Why yeah, sorry, these things just came out of nowhere. The girl was winded as she appeared to be wearing a robe-like outfit with a cloak and a bee-themed masquerade mask. It seemed that she was really nervous. I needed to get out of here, but they chased me. Taking a look around, Izuku stared at the panicking people as he gripped his chain weapon tightly. We have to do something. The others turned to him confused as Izuku turned to them. I'm going to help them, because someone has to step up. Turning back, he hopped on top a piece of debris as he stood tall. Izuku took a deep breath and pointed towards the exit as people looked at him confused. Everyone, this way. Pick up anyone who's out or can't move. The crowd was uncertain when a piece of the roof started to fall. Reacting as fast as he could, Izuku swung his chain and smashed the piece of rubble, so it avoided a masked individual. Move, now. Not being told twice, the people started to head towards the exit as another portal sneaked up behind Izuku. Suddenly, a hand reached out for the boy as he felt a tug, before it stopped completely, and the portal closed. This caused the boy to look in confusion. Izuku didn't get much of a chance to think about it, however, as he was grabbed by Chijiro. Come on, everyone else has gotten out. With that, the 4 teens turned and moved to leave. However, as the 4 teens headed towards the exit, a crashing noise could be heard as 2 individuals, who Izuku could only assume was the Ripper and the Rapper, fighting a large red-eyed creature. It had a large, muscular build with a long neck that had several large vertebrae jutting out. Their skin was black with a hood of skin covering the head, creating a shroud of darkness. The creature had exposed muscles visible on their neck and shoulders, while also giving a sharp, jagged tooth smile at the two. Rumi stared at the creature with a feral grin as Izuku saw her battle lust rise. Tiger Bunny, no. Tiger Bunny, yes, however. She was stopped as Chijiro grabbed her, held her over his shoulder like a sack of potatoes. Wah hey. The beast boy didn't care as he continued to move. Less talking, more running. The rabbit girl groaned as they started to head out of the building towards the doorway. All the while, she stared at Izuku, who she could just tell had a smug grin. 𝐬𝐻𝐬, she stared confused before it clicked in her head. When she kidnapped him from his sensei and friends. Shut the fuck up. Taking a deep breath in the alleyway, the masked teen sighed in relief as Rumi pulled her mask off. Well fuck. That was insane. Please tell me that this isn't the norm. Chijiro groaned as he cracked his neck and took off the muzzle. Looking down at it, he crushed it in his palm. The verdant sweat dropped at the two. He wasn't going to admit that he's gone through crazy stuff these past few months. But taking a sigh, he chuckled weakly. Well, at least it's over. Say, what do you think? However, as Izuku turned to the girl they had saved. Wait, what? Where did she go? Sure enough, the girl they saved was nowhere in sight as the 3 looked around confused. Well, great. Leave us high and dry after we kicked some ass. Rumi crossed her arms as she scowled. Fucking figures. Izuku went to speak, but stopped as he watched a door nearby open up. His eyes widened as a large man wearing a tattered t-shirt, dark pants, a pair of boots, a pair of crudely fashioned gloves with simple plating bound by sports tape, and finally a black mask that covered his face but had his mouth visible. He approached the teens with his tall stature as he had a feral grin. Rumi had her back to him as she stared at the nervous boys across from her confused. However, Rumi froze as she felt a hand land on her shoulder. Oi. Turning her head, she could see the champion, the rapper, standing there. Izuku and Chijiro were silent as they watched the stare down before the man gained a big grin. So you finally decided to follow your old man in the way of the fist. The 2 boys' anime dropped onto the ground as Rumi gave the rapper a kick to the head. Shut up, old man, she groaned. This is why I wanted to avoid seeing you here. Because you'd pull this crap. The man tilted his head confused as he saw the 2 boys slowly getting back up. Oh, you brought friends, he gave a grin. Want to practice how to follow the art of punching? Quit it with a punching. Rumi crossed her arms before she pointed at the man. The art of kicking is way better anyways. Cue another anime fall. The man grabbed his chest with pain. Betrayed by my own daughter. He then noticed the two confused boys and gave a grin. Right, hello, I'm Kendo Rappa, Rumi's father. Adoptive father. Rumi groaned as she sighed. That's how I found the paper, though. I was confused as I thought that Pops gave up on underground rings. Ha, I did. Those punks never gave many good fights. But my rival invited me to help out with this bust. He then frowned. He also invited an apprentice and a friend to help out. Kendo then blinked as he grinned and waved. Oh, there's the friend, hi. Izuku was confused when he suddenly felt a chill down his back. Slowly turning his head, he saw a smiling Lady Nagant who was tapping her foot and had a vein mark on her forehead. Brat. 𝐀𝐦 sensei. The verdant het paled as the sniper walked forward. Funny seeing you here, ga. However, he was shut up as the lady grabbed his face with a claw hand and gripped tightly. One-on-one training with me. No holding back. A miasma slowly exited her. You think you can get away with these reckless actions? Guess again. A dark grin appeared on her face as gripped even tighter. Izuku cried anime tears of pain from both the pain and the promise of pain. All the while, both Kendo and Rumi both pouted. Lucky, all the while, Chijuro stared at the scene with a sweat drop. What the hell did I get myself into? But still had a small smile on his face. In the night, a man could be seen walking away from the scene groaning as he clenched his fist. Damn it, I didn't get to punch anything. Taking off his Ripper mask and putting on a different mask, he sighed. I was hoping to throw hands at that hooded bastard. Well, the girl following him sighed before giving a sheepish smile as she scratched the back of her head before showing a flash drive. At least the place got busted right? And we got the information we needed right? She looked nervous. Did I do a good job? The man was silent for a moment before turning back to the girl and smiled as he patted her on the head. You did great. The light shifted to show the man as none other than 𝗏𝐽, the vigilante. But don't get a big head, Queenie. This was just your first big mission. Yeah, the girl sighed as she remembered back to the green hoodie boy who helped block the hand from reaching out to her. He was really cool. Oh, is there some punk trying to seduce you? He cracked his knuckles as he gained a savage grin. Looks like I got a bastard to take down now. However, that got him a hit on the back of the head. Stop, she groaned as she sighed and pulled her hood down, revealing long brown hair, a green right eye, and a strange green insectoid left eye. Seriously, Dad, calm down. That was probably the only time we'll even meet him. Little did she know she would meet him again, and how that would change her life course. But that's a tale for another day. 𝗏𝐽 sighed and patted the girl on the back who pouted and headed off ahead of the vigilante. He waited a moment before she was a distance away before he gained a frown. Still, seems that bastard is running amok again. All for one. And that hood fellow, something isn't right with them. The man sighed and placed his hand in his pocket as he pulled out a phone. God, what a mess. Izuku Midoriya's Ketsubutsu analysis for the future book #1 entry 4. Maguma Iwata, the leader of the former volcano thieves, they're trying to find a new name. He met me when I assisted Kanako and Tsumiji with things I cannot write down. Quirk. Eruption. Maguma is able to burn his body fat to produce a lava-like substance. It is as hot as magma, and he is able to eject it from his body. Currently, it is from his hands, and he can't control how it's fired out. He wants more options and is practicing. Perhaps a form of spread shot as well as a specific fire. I somehow convinced him, Kanako and Tsumiji, into applying for Ketsubutsu. Kana-sensei was able to assist with that. Though when I mentioned other options, he patted me on the head and said they didn't need other options. Wonder why? Has a bruiser fighting style due to his larger frame, and has been starting to take lessons on fire dynamics to gather a better understanding of how to control his quirk. Stoic and well-meaning, he's the level-headed leader of the volcano trio. He tends to try and carry the burdens of Spike and the other kids often, as well as Kanako and Tsumiji. But no matter what, we'll all be there to help, be a shoulder he can lean on. Overall review. Maguma is a determined individual who is an older brother I never really had. He's similar to Bakugo in some ways, but at the same time, feels more of a protector than Bakugo ever was. He's strong, patient, and compassionate. While our conversations are not long, I'm always excited for the next, and am happy to be his friend.